Well, gaming news today is about a whole host of topics, and we're going to be going over those during this live stream. I'll use timestamps below because there were even more new news stories hitting this morning before I was even able to update my thumbnail or my description. But there's a brewing debate about Arc Raiders PVE Lobbies. I've got a video on the channel right now talking about how they've basically been confirmed by not just the developers and how they do behavioral matchmaking, but how people are testing it. And that video is talking about how there is a bit of a catch with how it works. We're also hearing some new information about the Elder Scrolls 6 and an open discussion that's sort of starting about SAROS, the spiritual sequel to Returnal from Housemarque, and difficulty and punishment and ways they are approaching it. But I've also got some articles now about the PlayStation 6 launch window and the situation with RAM, and we'll be reacting to those various news stories happening in gaming news. So if you like these daily gaming news talk shows, you throw them on in the background of your day, or you use these to get through the work day. A lot of you guys are working lurkers and you enjoy the content. Make sure you are hitting that like button, whether you're watching live or later. Make sure you're subscribed and consider doing a membership. We're doing something a little bit different now, and we start the week and we take that Member Plus number and we add it to the total. So the goal is a little bit larger, but that's because we're adding, 400 or 500 right at the beginning of the week to jumpstart that goal. So the closer we get to that goal is actually contributed by those of you that are at Member Plus and above. So if you have a membership and you upgrade to Member Plus or VIP, that supports me directly, but it also makes the weekly goal easier to hit. So thank you so much, Bareth Champion, for 22 months. He's going to add to the total right now. We had a couple people adding during morning coffee. Another great reason to support. Who convinced this man to put up shelving? It's been years. I finally had an idea of how to do it. So I literally just took the foam, and funny enough, the boxes that Reforge Roast Coffee comes in are the exact same size as those foam squares. So like one foam square on the front of one of those boxes works as a really great shelf back there. I still feel like lighting is tough, but it's not bad. Also, it was not something that I had to go out and buy and measure. I was able just to put them where I wanted them. So I kind of made them over the weekend, and I feel like they turned out pretty good. So thank you guys so much for being here and hitting the like button and chatting. Good morning to all of you. That is a great way to help out. Anytime you're here for the live stream, just say good morning, just say hello, just say whatever, and contribute to the conversation. You can also submit questions. That is something you guys can do. There are a bunch of topics that you could submit questions about, and we'll be getting into those topics shortly. We usually just start the stream by just going back and forth and talking about the various things going on in gaming. So no member fights with Twitch. No, we have decided that this needs to be home base. Sending some of our most loyal viewers and supporters over there to Purple was actually kind of hurting us. So we need folks to kind of come back home over here. We were having a perfectly fine 4 years rebuilding over here, and it was great to get the channel back. I think it was very vindicating, but YouTube doesn't know how to interpret the fact that, a good portion of the audience was just no longer coming here. It sees that as a bad thing. So get in here and hit the like button every day, and chat and all those things. And that is what keeps this thing going. So good morning to all of you. Hopefully you guys had a great holiday and a great Christmas. No matter what you celebrate or how you celebrate, I hope it was a good one. We took it easy here at the home front here with the kiddos. And a late start today. I was actually going to be much more diligent about starting on time, and then I went upstairs, and we have a situation with in-laws coming to town and schedules that are shifting because they may not come now. So we will see. But the lead topic was Arc Raiders PVE Lobbies. I don't know if you guys saw my video. It took off like a rocket because it is a very, very hot topic, a contentious topic, because some people think that it shouldn't be in the game at all. They don't like it. They don't like that you can play friendly and get friendly lobbies, which I think is rather interesting. But then there are obviously people that are very much dedicated to playing more PvE style, and they really appreciate it. And I had been saying for a very long time, it's cool to see my theory get a lot of backing, like to see not only the developers say, oh no, we totally analyze behavior and match accordingly, but to now see people testing it. and seeing very clear indications that, yes, you can 100% get a more peaceful experience in that game depending on how you play. I'm a new chatter. I subbed at the Game Awards. Thanks for streaming. But the event sucked. You didn't like the Game Awards. I liked it just fine up until the end. I like seeing Expedition 33 win a bunch. I thought it deserved it. I told people it was going to basically sweep every category except for like audio design. I was wrong about RPG. I didn't think it was going to win that category. But up until the end, when we got the High Guard trailer. So I thought it was a good event. Warhawk with 26 months and a member plus. Good morning, sir. Hope you and the family had a great Christmas. We did have a great Christmas, and thank you guys so much for all you do to support us. I was able to take a couple days and not feel stressed. It's like, I know we've got an awesome community here that supports what we do and shows up and hangs out in the Discord and renews memberships, gifts memberships, all those things. You guys made the holidays just, I don't know. I wasn't spooked. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I can't take time off. That is always a dilemma as a creator, is holidays and vacations can be more stressful than they're worth because you're not working. You know what I mean? I actually agree with you. I thought it should have gone to Kingdom Come Deliverance too. We've had that debate up one side and down the other. Count this nerd, my man Zubair with 58 months. Thank you so much, getting us to 449. The week starts out strong because everybody at Member Plus and above, you guys add to the total as soon as the week starts. Gandalf with 42 months and Member Plus. 42 months, that's a long time. Happy time void. Boom, we're already at 550. I already owe you guys a member for hitting a milestone. And a 5-bomb comes in from Siege Master. He says, let's get a strong start to the week. We're already 20 away from the first big milestone of 475. Thank you so much. It's very, very easy to hit that goal the more we have people in Member Plus. I'm counting twice this week. You're welcome. Yeah, this was Zubair's idea. He said you should have Member Plus there, and it should jumpstart the week, and then obviously raise the goal accordingly because you're throwing 400 to 500 people on there right away at the beginning of the week. But you guys get to count more than once now when you're at that threshold. I got the coffee on Tuesdays, and the kiddos drew me a Venom. Oh, let me see this work of art from my kiddos. Oh, that's adorable. Yeah, so my son, I think that's my son. I think my son drew that. Yeah, there you go. So when you order the coffee, you might get a cute little note from my kiddos, and that's my son's version of Venom. He didn't even want to spell out Venom, apparently. That's hilarious. Yeah, and thank you guys again for all the Christmas wishes. Everybody was so, kind and making messages in the Discord and stuff. That's a great reason to be in the Discord. A lot of y'all were hanging out over the holiday break, the holiday, couple of days there where we weren't streaming, and people were hanging out and talking. Elder Scrolls 6 news, please tell me it's been canceled. I have zero faith it will be any good. I don't share your negativity about it. I mean, maybe not negativity, your negative outlook on it. I don't share that. I certainly think they're going to have a pretty fundamental shift in what they view or how they view, games and game design. I don't think we can do another Fallout 4 adjacent, Starfield adjacent style, design with the open world and stuff. I think they're going to have to really evaluate what that looks like. To me, I understand why people like the idea of being able to pick everything up and having perpetual, what's it called? Item permanence and things like that. But I just don't know. I don't know if is that the thing that people are going to care about 3 or 4 years from now? We've had this debate time and time again about, is that the big deal that it once was? And guys, help us get to the first 100 likes on the stream. We're at 68. We're so close already. Let's have a strong start to the week. Let's have a strong start to this Monday. I've seen some leaks the other day saying Bethesda is incorporating some of UE5 into the creation engine. To me, it's not necessarily about... I mean, we know creation engine has its rough edges, but I think the modding community has consistently shown me that you can make the game look and run really, really well. Does that make sense? I feel like sometimes creation engine gets a lot of criticism. Some of that's probably deserved, but some of it also seems to be easily rectified. I mean, I don't know. The modding community seems to sort of be an indictment of the lack of polish or the lack of modern feel, or you know what I mean? Like, I feel like two things commonly get stated. They're like, well, Creation Engine is great because it makes the game very moddable, but then it also seems like the modding community has to come in and do a lot of some of the, like what they did with the NPCs as an example in Starfield. Within, like, was it a week maybe, there was an NPC mod that made the NPCs look significantly better. So sometimes I wonder, is it the engine or is it a design philosophy? Is there something going on at Bethesda that's been there for a long, long time? Like, this has nothing to do with Xbox or Microsoft. I feel like Bethesda's got something baked into the DNA where it's almost like certain things aren't a priority. And it's like, I don't know. If the modding community can come in behind you and fix a lot of these issues, then I don't think it's the engine. Does that make sense? Like, clearly, there are fixes and levels of polish, and more modern design philosophy that is possible with this engine. Modders seem to prove that. You know what I mean? Like, they play them for those features, and a lot of them only play one game for... Hang on. I think it's still a big deal, but I don't think it's a main selling point, especially when the fan base for Bethesda games are so, like, particular about them. Like, they play them for those features, but a lot of them only play that one game for forever. Right, yeah, Bethesda fans are certainly, animate about some of this stuff, but I wonder if a lot of them now... I don't know. I wonder if they would think differently about the possibility of some crazy big open world Elder Scrolls game where do they limit, item permanence or the number of items or things like that in the game. I just don't know. Most definitely Creation Engine is more than capable. Bethesda just doesn't push it to its limits. If modders have to build your game, it's still a Bethesda game. The textures in Creation Engine are awful. But is it the engine? I feel like I've seen texture passes and mods and things that make the games look dramatically different. I don't know. I don't know if it's that's not the engine, right? Like, you can use any textures you want. You could use textures that make the game look like a cartoon if you wanted. I don't think that's the engine. I think it's a matter of implementation. I think it comes down to design philosophy. I was thinking about a video and a topic on this, and it's like, because I saw a video that said something to the effect of, like, why do all these games look the same now? And part of me wonders if we've got two unhelpful philosophies. One is a design philosophy that completely rejects the need for any modernity in your game at all. And I don't mean like modernity within worldview and philosophy. I mean like, we don't want any of those modern amenities and any of the niceties. We're going to keep our game kind of rough and whatever, and we're just going to focus on systems. You know what I mean? But then on the other side of that coin, there are games that take no time on art direction, and they use assets and character designs that feel uninspired and feel canned and feel like, if you look at, Highguard as an example, the art philosophy and design and the art direction behind Highguard is arguably terrible, right? It's arguably terrible. And I think some of the reason for that is it doesn't look like there's any grit or any, like, how do I want to say this? I feel like in the past, if you wanted your game to look good, it took effort. You were essentially trying to make the best of something that was sort of in a rough state. Like, if you go back in time when engines weren't as great, when, like, texture mapping wasn't as great, a lot of the methodology of, like, we got to make our game look good, you had to do extra effort to make it look good. And I wonder if now, with lighting systems and engines and textures, is there less of that? Is there like, we don't need to do any of that? The default character textures are fine. Just change the colors and make their outfits cool. And it's like, well, wait, but you didn't do any of the work to make it look good. Limitations made for more creativity. That's the truth, says Paul. That's what I'm saying. It's like, they were so limited, they had to get really creative to make a game look good. Now the engine or the lighting systems can do a lot of that heavy lifting, but what you end up with is a bunch of the games that look the same then. And I wonder if, like, the other side of that coin is like, well, Bethesda seems to reject all modern design philosophy. They're like, we're not going to do any of that stuff. And what you end up with is a game that feels very much like a bunch of scaffolding, a bunch of systems that lack, polish, inventory systems and what have you, that just don't seem like they've been brought forward into the 21st century. It's like, what in the world is this? This seems very, very utilitarian, I should say. And I wonder if both of these extremes are why you have a game that feels stuck in time, like a lot of the issues with Starfield at launch. It was like, this feels like a game from a bygone era. It's like, you guys have, not made a whole lot of effort here to, like, bring these, either visuals or systems forward. But then you look at a game like High Guard, and it's like, you guys aren't taking any effort at all to focus on art design. It's almost like you have too much modernity and not enough. Like, on one side, there's no modern design philosophy, like, at all. And on the other side, there's way too much of it. So you've got all these games that come out that end up looking the same. They end up looking like they have the same art director. But then you have a game, like Starfield, where people are worried about the Elder Scrolls 6 because it's just like, man, you guys don't really feel like you're stepping into the current landscape of gamer expectations and game design. If you guys are just joining us, there's a whole host of gaming news stories out there, and one of them is there's details circling about Elder Scrolls 6. We'll get into those details shortly. Make sure you're hitting the like button. Try to get us those first 100 likes. That does help out. I read that PC gamers are friendlier. Should we turn off cross-platform to get more mature players? I have heard both sides of that within... If you're talking about Arc Raiders and my Arc Raiders PvE video, I've heard both sides say that. I've heard people on console say, well, we turned off crossplay and it got a lot better. And I've heard the guys on PC say, oh, when crossplay's on, it's terrible. The PlayStation guys are jerks or whatever. I don't necessarily think there's a pattern there. I think there's a measurable pattern that is now being documented and tested by YouTubers and folks on Reddit and stuff, where if you go straight peaceful and you never shoot back, you will end up in more peaceful lobbies. I've been saying this since the beginning. I said, I'm telling you, my behavior day one in Arc Raiders is the reason why I have over 30 hours of, like, never really having to worry about PvP. I do think that theory has been almost completely proven true at this point. Not only have the Arc Raiders developers said they analyze behavior and they match accordingly, we now have players actively testing it. They'll get two different accounts, they'll play completely differently, and they'll end up in completely different types of lobbies. So I think it's been almost undeniably proven at this point that it is, in fact, in the game. And that you can not manipulate it so that you can be like a jerk. Where, like, well, I'm going to get into peaceful lobbies and be a jerk. Like, you'll quickly find your way out of peaceful lobbies if you start killing people. What do you think Ubisoft will have at the next Ubi Forward event, March 28th? I have no idea. I'm hoping the Black Flag remake and maybe something about Splinter Cell. I don't know. I mean, I didn't look into the Ubisoft hacking thing. I didn't have time. I saw a couple of videos and headlines. My time has been a little bit like post-holiday, get the house ready because in-laws are coming. So it's been a little it's been a little tough to do research and get everything going on that. But then I heard somebody say this morning, I think Insider Gaming reported that it was largely overstated. So we'll take a look at it. I got the article. We'll take a look at that in today's stream. First, we need to know Starfield can have a 2.0 moment. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a sentiment about that. Like, there are people, like Cyberpunk had its 2.0 moment. No Man's Sky has had a 2.0, 3.0, 4.0 moment. I've argued that Hello Games basically built No Man's Sky's sequel inside of No Man's Sky. Like, what they set out to do with No Man's Sky, they achieved, and then some. I mean, they went well beyond the original vision of the game. Well beyond it. And I have argued they basically built No Man's Sky 2 inside of No Man's Sky. So they had their 2.0 moment and they turned the game around. And then they went beyond that and basically built way more than they ever promised. I mean, you talk about over-delivery. Hello Games deserves, an entire flower shop of flowers for everything they've done for that game. But there are still people to this day that say you shouldn't support a game that does that. You shouldn't support a game that has a bad launch or that doesn't make good on the promises in the launch version. It doesn't matter if they fix it later, blah, blah, blah. So there are certainly going to be people that are like, I don't care. Starfield was bad at launch. I'm never giving it another shot or whatever. I am always of the opinion that if a development company is going to do right by the product as well as the consumer, and they're going to make it good, they're going to fix it, they're going to turn it around, I support that. There's this idea that if we support that game companies are going to say, oh, well, we can ship a game and it can be crap and we can fix it later. I don't think you're going to see companies take that mentality. I think what commonly we see is a game comes out because it has a ship date and a publisher that wants a ship date and the game's not ready. That, I think, is the most common thing that we see. I don't think we see companies that are like, oh, well, everybody gave Cyberpunk and No Man's Sky a second chance, so we should do the same thing. Absolutely not. Nobody's going to make that their business strategy, because Hello Games could have closed up shop. I mean, it could have been untethering for them. CD Projekt Red lost a massive amount of share value. They were sued by their shareholders. I don't think anybody's signing up for that. I don't think there are studios that are like, yeah, let's take a ride on that merry-go-round. I mean, we might completely detonate our company, but, let's try that out as a strategy. I don't think we're going to see that. I don't think you're going to see companies do that. So I am in support of games turning things around. On the subject of Starfield 2.0, I don't know. There was so much baked into the crust of that game that felt very, very dated and very, very stuck. And I mean, I've seen longtime Bethesda fans say this. I've seen, people that were super excited about the game say this. This isn't hate. I don't think this is unfair. I think this has been a very, very common claim. And if you look at the user scores, it's hard to say that game had good reception, okay? So there certainly is room for 2.0, but it's kind of like going into a house and being like, okay, there's room for expansion here, but if you lay a really bad foundation and, the ground itself and the plot of land that you own isn't that big or not enough space or what have you, it can really, really hamper the expansion that you want to do on the home. And I worry that so much of what Starfield was built on can't be undone. So I'm just not sure. The last time I tried to play that game to get ready for the DLC, I couldn't do it. The game just oozes boredom. I couldn't do it. I was like, this game is absolutely boring. It's arguably, it's just, I don't know. It's not that it's irredeemable. It's like, you got a lot of work to do. I don't know. How do you display your old retro games? Do you emulate or have a physical copy? What does your collection look like? That's nothing I've ever spoken about because I don't do that. What are you talking about? Just wait a few years and do a remake. Easy. I can support that idea, says Dead-Eyed Survivor, as long as there's not a price tag associated with it. Showing consumer goodwill goes a long way, especially when developers underdeliver on the promises. Yeah, I mean, I would say that they wouldn't charge for it. I mean, here's what I would say about Cyberpunk. Lono doesn't play retro games. He barely plays games from last year. That's actually not true. Some of the games I rolled credits on this year were from last year. Zoob's obviously being hyperbolic to make a point, though. Yeah, I don't really go back and play old games. That's not something that I do. Everybody has their different preferences. Like, I'll play an old game for nostalgia's sake. Like, I played GoldenEye on the Xbox. They did something with it, I think, like last year or something. I played for 20 minutes, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. And then that was about the end of it. I don't know. Just curious about your collection. You play digital? I don't have a collection and have never said that I have a collection. Again, your question seems so strange. I feel like you're in the wrong stream. I don't know who you're talking to. I have never said I have a collection of anything. My older brother had all of our Nintendo cartridges, like original Nintendo cartridges. I think he had like Super Nintendo and 64. He had them all. Unfortunately, I think they're gone. I think he moved to Korea to teach English, and they got put into storage. I think that storage is now gone, sadly. I didn't have that, he did. So from our childhood, that was not mine. I didn't keep any of that or have any of that. I went away to college, left it all at home. He ended up with it when he moved out. So, and since then, I've never really had like a collection of games. I've never really done that. So, you ever play Stalker 2? It's in a really good state now after the update. No, I played it at launch, and my issue wasn't, I mean, performance was rough. My issue wasn't that. It didn't, I don't know. It just didn't grab me. Some games just don't grab you, and that one didn't grab me. I'll tell you what it is. First-person shooters don't grab me anymore. I enjoyed Borderlands, but it was more about the abilities and the loot than the shooting, like than the guns themselves. Like the loot was exciting, and the world and the abilities were fun. I don't know. I'm going through a change as a gamer, like, and maybe what I'll do the same thing in 5 years. Maybe it'll be like cycles, you know, like dressing like goth in high school. It'll be like phases. For me, I played first-person shooters from the time they were born with like Wolfenstein 3D until about 5 years ago when I was a full-time Destiny content creator. That was pretty much all I played, was first-person shooters. And now when I play a first-person shooter, I'll see a trailer for a first-person shooter. I feel bored almost instantly. And I don't know. I would say it's probably franchise fatigue. Goth forever. It's probably franchise fatigue, to be honest with you. Like, I've just played so much, and now that I've played games like Returnal and Tsushima and Sekiro and even like Hellblade 1, I've developed more of an affinity for third person as well as like games that have compelling stories and characters. Yeah, I definitely got burned out on first person shooters. Like, I don't know. I used to be the guy, like a lot of you guys might be like this. If it's not first person shooter, then you're not interested, right? So, no, Clockwork Revolution is one that I am excited about. I thought that was one of the best trailers. That trailer they put together, I think that was at the Xbox Showcase this year, wasn't it? Yeah, that one looks good. But there's something very creative and very artistic and very unique about it that really kind of draws me in. Yeah. I don't know. I don't downplay them or criticize them. They just don't do anything for me anymore. I see them and I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, guns and whatever. It used to be the only thing I wanted to play. Yo, my man Behemoth with 57 months and a member and a VIP plus. 3 months to 5 years with this amazing community. Wish you all the best, Lono, in 2026 and beyond. Thank you so much. Let me add you to the total. Guys, we have a new way of doing the goal every week. When you are at Member Plus and above, you kickstart the week. So we started the week with 443 people at Member Plus and above, okay? So as that number goes up every week, the goal gets easier to hit. The goal is higher because of how we're doing this. We're restructuring it so that way when you are at Member Plus or VIP, you are helping to add to the total every Monday before we even start the week. For the most part, I want first person to be VR. Yeah, I really do like VR. I just don't have a setup for it anymore. The library where I would like go over and play has been kind of overtaken by stuff from the kiddos, so I don't really have a space to do VR, and I frankly haven't really felt the draw. A $20 super chat from Neo Reaper. Off topic. Cross asked the guy who made Forge mode in Halo if it could be in Destiny, to which he replied, yes, 100% it can, but they have to pull so many teeth to get leadership to approve of anything. I don't necessarily think that would be a game changer or anything for Destiny. I don't know. I've got so much distance on Destiny now. I think for many people, what Destiny needs is a new game, not like tools or content. That ship just seems to have sailed. For real, I understand your fatigue, says Dark Taco. I'm happy you tried Witchfire, though. Witchfire's really fun, though. And I tell you why it works, Dark Taco. The reason I like Witchfire, and we might have just gotten to the bottom of it, or maybe an aspect of this. I played a junk ton of RoboQuest with my wife, and I actually played a lot of Witchfire. I think it's because I know it's a short thing. It's like it's a rogue. Does that make sense? It's like I'm in there and that's it. Like right now, I can't bring myself to play the Battlefield 6 campaign, even though I know people are saying it's really good. I could never go back to the campaign from Call of Duty last year, even though people said it got really good. I couldn't do it. But when it's a rogue, when it's Witchfire or it's RoboQuest, I'm like, oh yeah, I can play. And then a week later, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm on to something else. So it gives me that like bite-sized, snack-sized morsel, and then I'm able to go play something else. Instead of being like, oh, well, I'm signing up to do this in this campaign for 15 hours or however long. You know what I mean? Some may call it hubris. I'm not sure what you're responding to. Would be a game changer for Destiny 3, not 2. I just love jumping in and out. I think there's something to be said for that. I don't know. Maybe Returnal has a I think every game you play has an impact on you. You guys have heard me talk about the metamorphosis principle and like how every game you play, it takes you on a bit of a journey. And one of the aspects of the journey is you go through a metamorphosis as a player. And what that does is it adjusts your expectations. It adjusts your, like, what you want from a game, what you like, what you dislike. It has an impact on all those things. And part of me wonders if that's what's happening to me, is that I've played really, really good third-person action-adventure games like Tsushima. I played games with really, really pristine combat like Sekiro. I played a rogue that won me over, which was Returnal. I've clocked like over 200 hours in that game. I might actually go for the platinum, not because I like going for platinums. I've never done that before, but I just like Returnal that much. I would like to have that little, achievement in that game. But I wonder if it's just changed me. Like, you get to a point where certain things just, like, there are comedy movies now that I laughed at when I was like a kid, and I don't think they're funny at all now. Like, you change. Like, certain things just aren't as enjoyable as they once were. And I think I've gone through that with first-person shooters. Like, I struggle to want to play them or to be, drawn in by them. Hades. I would like to give Hades another go because I know it's great. I know it's well-deserving of praise, and it's well-built and very responsive, combat system. What movie? Any of the slapstick that I loved in the 90s, any of those movies, I don't like them at all now. All of the, like if it's like an Adam Sandler movie or something. And I like him as a person. He seems like such a sweet guy. But yeah, no, I don't think they're funny anymore. I don't laugh. And I've felt similarly about video games. Certain video games now do nothing to me. I'm like, I don't feel anything. And I used to be all about the first-person shooter. That's all I wanted to play. Damien with Member Plus, thank you so much. Let me add you to the total. Taking us on the day of 14. Actually, should we do it based on that, or should we do it? Yeah, no, I owe you guys a member. We'll do it every 25 on the main goal. We'll do it every 25 on the main goal. So right now, if we want to hit the goal by Friday, you're going to want to end the day at 500. So it makes Monday a little bit easier to set the pace for the week when you guys start with all those member pluses in the mix. You played a very in-depth RPG with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I didn't play for very long, though. I didn't. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is like this beautifully built gourmet meal that I just don't have time to eat, man. Like, I can look at it and say, this is immaculate. You've done an incredible job with this. I can't play this. Like, it's just some things are not built for my sentimentality, And that's a me problem. That's not me being critical of the game. Like, I try to create a dividing line of, does this deserve criticism? I do think the saving thing could be criticized, but if they believe that that's part of the experience and that's part of their game, then I just have to accept that that's something that they've built that, to me, it's just a hurdle I don't want to try to climb over. So, and, you know, every game's got those. I think every game has that. I'll tell you this about Returnal. I spent so much time in Biomes 4, 5, and 6 and the Tower of Sisyphus. Biome 1 is tough. I actually think Biome 1 is harder than Biome 4. I think Biome 1 is harder than like Biome 6 or Tower of Sisyphus. As long as you're paying attention and you're building up your power, nobody's wandering into like Biome 6 and feeling like an absolute scrub. Buddy, Biome 1's tough, man. You got nothing, and the guns are low level, and they don't have a lot of perks. The difference between a gun with a lot of perks and a gun with like one perk in that game, Biome 1 is tough. And all of a sudden I realized that last night. I was like, man, Returnal is a tough game. You get used to those higher levels, and your guns are stronger, and they have more abilities and stuff, and that really makes up a big difference. And so I do think sometimes people forget that. Like, if you get really, really late game in something, you can forget what it's like in that early game. Like, I forgot how punishing and hard Biome 1 was. And I did fine. I beat it. I was like, oh, this is too hard. I was just like, oh my gosh, I forgot how hard this is. And sometimes I wonder if in a game like that, like, do people forget like what it's like for like a newbie to come in and deal with it? You know. And I think sometimes it's easy to let your own bias and preference within a game, you overlook those things. Like, if somebody would have told me that Biome 1 was really hard and they were having a hard time with it, I'd have been like, what? What are you talking about? But then I go back to it and I'm like, oh yeah, this is actually kind of tough. This is actually, at some level, you know, more challenging. And a 10 bomb comes in from Terminal Stupidity and gets us to 467. I owe you guys a member at 475. Thank you so much, Terminal Stupidity, for gifting that membership. If you guys want to pay it forward, you can gift one. It adds to the total. You can always upgrade to Member Plus and above. We track that here now. We're at 443 people, and that jump starts every week. So thank you to everybody who's at that level of membership. And thank you, Terminal Stupidity. And if you guys haven't hit the like button yet, quickly do that. Let's try to get to 200 likes. We're only 30 minutes into the broadcast, man. Thank you guys for such a strong turnout today. I'm the same way about FPS as Warhawk. Biome 1's harder because your weapons aren't leveled. This is true. Do you think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 could have worked in third person? I mean, maybe. They would have to completely rework the combat system, though. They have an entire system built around swings and blocks that I suppose you could have that icon still there. And you could have that icon there and still have the same blocking system and the combat system, but in third person. I think that style of combat, I don't prefer it, but I don't know if you can just transplant it into third person. I think that's difficult. It's meant to be one where you're looking at them head on, and you know you're analyzing your blocks, your swings, your stamina, everything else. And maybe it could. I don't know. I don't know if anybody's... I'm assuming people have modded it to allow for that. I don't know how it plays, though. Thoughts on Black Myth Wukong gameplay and story depth. One of my favorites. It ran so poorly on console. Yeah, and I still think it runs really poorly on console. They were having trouble even getting it on console. They needed help from PlayStation. And I think it runs and looks terrible. It's got to be one of the worst performance modes I've ever seen on console, which is unfortunate because I was very much cheering for that game. I had followed it for 4 or 5 years, and I thought, man, this game could be a contender. And it was a contender. It took the world by storm. It still runs poorly on PC. Yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate when a game like that comes out and has those kind of issues. Like, one of my favorite games the year that it came out was Jedi Survivor, and it was 5 months or so before it was even playable on console. So, Take on Crimson Desert upcoming. I think Crimson Desert looks incredibly ambitious. I think that they've already had to dial back some of the graphical fidelity in the trailers. I think it's undeniable. I think if you look at some of those early trailers and you look at one of the more recent ones, they've dialed back a lot of the reflections, the lighting, graphical fidelity, character detail. All of it's been toned down. And I told people, I said, man, you watch some of those early trailers and like, this seems a little too good to be true. Now, they had said they had made breakthroughs with their engine, and I was like, okay, I'm always willing to be proven wrong on something like that. I'd much rather be a skeptical. Like, I'd much rather be a skeptic and be like, I don't know, boys, that seems too good to be true, and I know I got clipped saying it's not a real game, and as clip culture tends to do, they completely misrepresented what I said. I was like smiling and laughing when I was like, this game isn't real, because it looked so good. It looked so good. I was like, oh my gosh, like this isn't real. How are they doing this? I wasn't saying it wasn't real like when I said the day before wasn't a real game, because it wasn't. I was saying this just seems too good to be true. I was essentially praising the trailer mingled with skepticism. Does that make sense? Like, in a day and age where you're either a shill or a hater, there's no nuance or in between. That's not allowed in these spaces. I was basically saying, this looks incredible, but I am mingling my excitement with skepticism. This looks too good to be true. And they've dialed some things back, clearly in the latest trailer. I thought character and world detail and lighting were noticeably toned down, which I would prefer that. Like, don't go so crazy that the game runs like garbage. Like, that's not, oh, it's so pretty, but then if it doesn't run well, then who cares? Does that make sense? Like, I think there's a delicate balance. And we were talking about this a little bit this morning in Morning Coffee. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of the games now look the same, and one of the reasons people are so frustrated by that, is because in the past, you had to do a lot of heavy lifting to make a game look good. You were dealing with limitations. Like, you were either dealing with like engine limitations or power limitations. Consoles weren't particularly strong back in the day. So you had to get really creative to make your game look pretty and to make it look unique and memorable. There's a grit to older games. We all know it. You can't really describe it other than that games looked better. And you're like, I don't know why they looked better. I don't think it's just nostalgia that you're like, oh yeah, games back then looked better. No, I think art direction was stronger. This is why when you look at a game like Highguard, you're like, this game looks like so many other games right now, because they're using textures and lighting and like everything looks similar and familiar because their art direction is probably the weakest part. And so it ends up looking very generic. Then you get into a game like, I think Hi-Fi Rush has excellent art direction. Elden Ring had excellent art direction. I think FromSoft always excels at this. They don't deal in high fidelity and lighting systems and like next gen. They just make incredible art. And it's memorable. Like the first time you shot up in the air and saw that big gold glowing tree in Elden Ring, like you remember that. It's like burned into your brain. Yes, Expedition 33 had excellent art direction. It's incredibly memorable. You can picture the characters right now in your mind. You can see them. You can probably picture the characters from Concord because they were on so many thumbnails and they were memed on relentlessly. But yes, I don't know if it's the Fortnite-ification of games, Anthony, but I think it's, the engine can do a lot of lifting for us. The lighting can make things look good. The texture mapping can make things look good. You aren't having to like dig down into the depths and the guts of the game to make sure that like a character or a wall or a gun looks good. Does that make sense? If everybody's using the same tools to do the same things? Well, I don't know if that's the problem, because I think the art direction in Hellblade is excellent. I didn't like Hellblade 2's gameplay, but the art direction was excellent. Look at Hellblade 2 and then look at Concord. Same engine, right? engine and the tools can be utilized very differently. And I think Ninja Theory did an excellent job with their art direction. The game looks just phenomenal. At some levels, it's a tech test. Like, it shows off so much of the technical prowess of that engine and what it can do with facial capture, emotion capture, lighting, water, all of it. Lightning, like, just being in the world felt so eerie because of those things. And that's the same engine that Concord was made in. So, yes, that's such an excellent one. Destiny 1 versus Destiny 2. Right? Like, oh my gosh, what they did to the King's Fall raid. Oh, that's awful what they did to it. They took all the grit and all the mystique and all the darkness out of it, and it looked like a dadgum mobile game. I saw footage of that raid, and I'm like, what did you do? Look what they've done to our boy. Like, what do they do to that raid? It, a lot of those modern design, I don't even know what you'd call them, tools, assists, like lighting can really elevate, a game's image quality and fidelity. We saw this with my praise of the global illumination in Assassin's Creed Shadows. It made it one of the best looking games I played this gen. I put it right up there with Death Stranding 2 and Yote. I think those are three of the best looking games this gen. I mean, they are gorgeous. Their worlds, their lighting systems, the characters, just fabulous. AC Shadows, Death Stranding 2, and Yote are just so good looking. I give Yote the crown because I think the art direction in Yote was very, very good. It was like a painting. It was like a living painting. Not like Expedition 33 was like a painting. It's a different style. But I think those games are gorgeous. So Yote has it has GI. They didn't really talk about it. I think when Digital Foundry did the breakdown, they said they were kind of surprised it was there because they never talked about it before the game came out. I don't think it's the same exact suite as AC Shadows, but it's there. They gave it a lot of praise in their video. I think they were praising it not just because it was there, but because it was a surprise. Like, they didn't really talk about it beforehand. So yeah, I think that is, I think this is all related to how, like, the next generation, which we have an article about the PS6. We're going to be taking a look at some articles here in a little bit. If you guys want to submit questions with the question command, that is something that members can do. You can do that about anything going on in gaming news. We are not rigidly on topic anymore. We're going to use our uploads for that. And then when you come in here, you can notice today it's been very free flow on the topic. And we feel like that's a better experience for you, and it makes it more enjoyable just to kind of be here. It also makes it a little bit easier for you guys to engage with the... you can engage with that question command a lot easier when I'm not like, oh, it has to be on topic. So we're trying to, like, loosen up a little bit in the live environment. Destiny 1 relied more on baked lighting, and it shows. If devs aim for that, then the gaming industry would probably die. No one could afford gaming. What are you talking about, Banshee? That's a wild statement. What did he say? Consoles are still holding games back. If devs aim for something like a 4090 32 gig RAM and say modern Intel and AMD CPU, then games would look peak. But to what price? Yeah, I don't agree with you at all. I think we have incredible looking games, and they're not targeting that. I think you can demonstrate that position lacks validity. I think that's easy to demonstrate. You can look at games right now that look and run so incredibly well on console. Like, you don't need to push everything to 11. Like, I do think you can always ratchet things up to 11, right? But what's the point? Does that make the game better? Does it help the game run better? Does it help systems in the game run better? Like, I think there's a threshold of, yep, it looks good. It looks good. Yeah, I also think it's not the consoles that are stopping that from happening. I would say adoption rates within PC are probably playing a larger part. See, you guys in PC land, you commonly make this mistake. There are way more PC users on Steam than there are people buying consoles. So maybe it's your PC brethren that are the problem, because they're all at mid and low level units, which means demand for those high level graphics is not there, which means a developer would be stupid to leave those people out. Like, it would be an economically destructive decision for a developer to be like, we're making a game for PC and only like 15 to 20% of the market can even run the game. That would be a dumb decision. So the funny thing is the PC guys are always, I see this narrative a lot, like they're trying to like, oh yeah, consoles are holding everything back. No, I don't think so. I think market demand is an emergent property that you can't really, you can try to influence it, but like the way that people spend their money and the hardware that they buy and the games that they play is probably playing the largest part in why games don't target the high-end devices. They target the middle because that's where most people live. Does that make sense? Like, the market is determining that, not consoles. Steam is about to release a device that is weaker and more expensive than a PS5, but tell me again how consoles are the holdback. I think that's another fair piece of pushback here. The guy from Valve talking about the Steam machine literally cited that stat as like, yeah, it's this strong. It's stronger than like 70% of the PC landscape. I've seen a video of the dude Black Hokage rant about PlayStation gamers don't buy games. Xbox and PC dudes do buy games. I need the keyboard in the room so I can like... I love how he plays music. Come on. Stop. Stop it. The 2080 homies are holding back. Here's the problem with the premise, though. Jimmy Mack with a $5 super chat. I bought a PlayStation 5 yesterday, blown away how good the controller features are and how good Astro Playroom looks and feels. It's really good, isn't it? It's really fun. Games right now are coded to run on weak hardware. Higher performance budget will make the games better in all ways. Really? Run better and easier for the devs to hit their vision. There's so much about what you're saying that's not in line with what developers talk about. So you're saying, let's just take this one part at a time. Higher performance budget will make the games better in all ways. Run better and easier for the devs to hit their vision. What you're saying is literally not true, according to what like all developers have said. No developer is going to agree with what you just said. Yeah, if we pushed for a higher performance budget, yeah, it would make the game run better and it'd be easier for us to hit our vision. No, quite the opposite. When you aspire to like the highest levels of performance, it actually constrains what the game can do, what the engine can do, how well it can run. That's actually not true. A developer's vision is not automatically linked to performance and graphical fidelity. They've talked about this. If you push certain things too far, it makes it difficult for the game to run. It doesn't matter if it's a really strong rig. Like, optimization of a game is easier when you aren't throwing everything up to 11. Because throwing everything up to 11 makes those things more difficult to do, makes those things more difficult to coexist within the engine. You can't just turn everything all the way up. This is why every time devs get access to higher performant hardware, the better games as they can get their games and visions. This is a fact. No, it simply isn't a fact. They'll push new features, yes. Like, as an example, ray tracing has like a suite of features they can tap into to put into the game. It elevates image quality. They like ray tracing. It automates a lot of the lighting work, so it speeds things up. This is true. Ristic with the 5 bomb adds to the total. 472. We're 3 away from me owing you guys another member. But there is not a developer alive right now that would say, yes, it would be easier for us to get a better running game if we could just target the highest hardware performance and make the game as good looking as possible. That's not true. They've talked about this in interviews. They've talked about how if you go too far, go too hard, and you try to elevate everything graphically, lighting, textures, motion capture, the way the characters look and all of that, if you do that, it makes it more difficult to optimize the game and to make it run well. The engine itself is an issue. We're not just talking about like the machine that it runs on. Dev's number one ask is for more VRAM and memory, not more GPU compute. Yeah, I don't think they're all sitting here like wringing their hands like, oh, it's just so hard for us for our vision to be materialized because we can't target the highest end, PCs. The middle of the road hardware has to increase, not the top end. The top end doesn't help at all. Right, I think that's the issue. I think you're looking at the wrong end of this. Yes, when the floor starts to come up and a developer can say, hey, min spec is X amount of RAM, min spec is X amount of GPU power, yes, they can now do more with their game instead of having to like remove those things or limit those things. This is true. But that's on this end of it, on like the low. Like, hey, if we can raise that floor, like the average game now that hits Steam, like what's the min RAM, like 16 gig or something, right? That floor has continued to rise. That enables the developers to do more. This is true. You're arguing from the other end of the spectrum, and you're like, well, if developers could just make games for the strongest rigs, the game would run better and their vision would come to fruition easier. I don't think I've ever seen a developer say that. They've commonly talked about, like, if you go too full bore with graphics, fidelity, and lighting, it limits how well the game can run with respect to optimization within the engine itself. It doesn't matter the hardware. There are plenty of games that come out and they're not optimized well and they run bad even on a strong rig. So optimization is always a part, regardless of how strong the PC is. You also have to consider the fact that, like, if they're spending so much time on graphics, fidelity, lighting, things of this nature, that can pull away from the other aspects of the game as well. The consoles are the big fat middle part of the curve. When a new generation comes out, the entire curve makes a quantum leap in performance. Which is why I've continued to talk about the PlayStation 6. We've got an article about the PlayStation 6 timing that we'll look at here in a moment. I think the next gen for PlayStation is targeting lighting and image quality. They're not going to be telling you, oh yeah, 8K, 200 something frames. No. They're not going for raw power leaps. The power jump's going to be more moderate. It'll keep price down. It'll keep production down. They're targeting image quality lift. So you'll be able to look and say, oh yes, it does look significantly better. The lighting is better. The vibrancy of the colors, the realism of the world, what have you, all looks like it's been lifted and looks better. But it's not going to be this like raw power. Like in the past, that was the goal. When you start getting those depreciating returns on raw power, you're seeing more and more companies lean into machine learning and frame gen and upscaling and things like that. I think that's where we're headed. We're headed to where the focus will be image quality, not we got to count the pixels. What's the native resolution? I think that argument goes away, which coming all the way back to the original point that sent us down this debate, I don't think developers are like, man, if we could only build our games just for the highest level machines, our games would run better and our vision would be realized easier. I've never heard a developer talk like that. Another example, GT7, if it was PS5 exclusive game, we would be having up to 64 cars. Because it's also for PS4, we are limited to 16 cars. I can't speak to that specifically. I don't know the inner workings of that game or what the developer has said. I think the presumption that more cars is a better game is probably unfounded. Like, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Like, well, if Mario Kart was on the highest level PC in the world, there could be 100 carts on the course. Okay, does that make it a better game? And a 10 bomb comes in from Hidden Siryu and gets us all the way to 482. We'll see if anybody wants to drop the 20 bomb to get a nice head start on the week and get us to 500. When you guys upgrade to Member Plus or above, we start the week with a jump start. That's why that 443 is there. That's how many people we have currently at Member Plus and above. So consider upgrading. It adds to the total at the beginning of the week. 64 cars would be terrible. Yeah, like what argument is... See, this again is where I think there's like a presumption baked into your position that I don't agree with. That like, oh, more is better. What? Oh, no, not necessarily. You can make the prettiest game on God's green earth. Like, the lighting can be incredible, the characters can look phenomenal, and it could be a not great game. It could be a boring game. Right? The story could be terrible. The combat could be terrible. I mean, an example for me would be Hellblade 2. I loved Hellblade 1. Hellblade 2 is light years better looking than Hellblade 1. I mean, light years. It's incredible what they did with Hellblade 2. And it, in my opinion, is not a better game. It isn't. They became infatuated with the tech. They became infatuated with motion capture, and I think it ruined the combat. It made for a lesser game, in my opinion. It's more of a technical test than a game. And here's the thing. That's just my opinion, but that just goes to show you that ratcheting everything up to 11 with lighting and facial quality and all of that doesn't automatically make for a better game. It doesn't. It can elevate a game and make it look better, as it did with Assassin's Creed Shadows. Like, just being in the world of Assassin's Creed Shadows or Yote or Death Stranding 2, that is part of the package. Like, how good it looks is part of the package, but that's not the whole crux of the matter. It's like a gravy. Yes, it can really enhance and elevate the meal, but it ain't the meal, brother. It ain't. It just isn't. You can put a gourmet, professionally made gravy on a poorly prepared steak or pot roast or turkey. It ain't going to change the fact that the meat's been prepared poorly. Like, my brother started smoking the turkey at Thanksgiving, and let me tell you, that really elevates turkey. Turkey's kind of mid, if I'm honest. Like, listen, no offense, it's mid. Okay, it's mid. But the way he smokes it, it's fantastic. And yeah, you could throw gravy on it and elevate it. Now, you overcook it, and it's dry, and it tastes bad. It's like eating frickin' wood chips. It's like you're eating mulch. I don't care how good the gravy is. It doesn't matter. It's a similar thing here. If the crux of the game, if the core of the game is not good, I don't care how pretty it is. An example would be Battlefield. They added more players, and then they removed it. Right, it didn't actually make for a better experience. I play with up to 100 cars in Assetto Corsa and multiplayer. GT7, they restricted to 16. Yeah, okay, here's the thing. That is a player preference with respect to number of cars, like in a race or something. Your original premise is one that I don't agree with. You're free to think it. I mean, you're free to think this. I don't agree with your original premise. Your premise was that if game developers could develop for the highest end rigs, the games would automatically run better, and they could bring their vision to life easier or better or something to that effect. And I don't agree with that. I don't. I think we've seen plenty of games fall prey to make it pretty, and then they forget the fundamentals. I believe that Ninja Theory did that with Hellblade 2. I do. I believe that they fell prey to make it pretty, and they forgot the fundamentals. The puzzles were not better or evolved or more innovative. They weren't. The combat system was reductive. It was so reductive compared to the first game. But it sure was freaking pretty. And the motion cap was incredible. It really was. It's a fantastic looking game. Like, but I feel like they lost sight of the fundamentals. I would support games that scale all the way up to the high end, but the console should be the base. I'm not arguing who they should develop for. I'm taking issue with the premise that, like, developers are over here just like, oh man, if we could only make a game for just the high end, it'd be easier for us to make the game run well and our vision could come to life easier. I just don't agree with that. I don't. You can't play games like Expedition 33 or Ball Pit or Hades 2 or even Silksong and tell me that, yeah, dude, gaming is held back because developers can't build for highest level rigs. Some of the best games, some of the most celebrated games have been made by small studios that can run on mid-level rigs. Like, you're making it about something that gaming's not about. You're making it about the dressing instead of the meal. Like, you're obsessing over that. Like, you're going to the restaurant and you're like, I don't care how you prepare the steak. I want to know what's in the gravy. Like, what? Huh? Like, that's not the crux. That's not the center thing. It's not the main thing. I simply don't agree with that at all. We've had an incredible year of games this year, and none of those games, in my opinion, were held back because they couldn't target the highest level hardware. Always been that way. That is why every gen the games get more beautiful every time, but sure, that does not make games better or rather fun. I mean, indie and retro games are super fun. Yeah, I think that's the glaring problem with what you're saying, is that indie games and AA games are having this massive resurgence because people are getting back to the fundamentals. They're like, what makes for a good video game? What makes for a fun video game? I tell you what it isn't. It's not canned lighting systems and textures and character design because it looks hollow and uninspired. There's a reason that there's a reason High Guard didn't pass the smell test. High Guard didn't pass the smell test because it just looks and feels hollow. It looks like something we have seen before. I saw 30 seconds of Expedition 33. I want to go back and find my initial reaction to that because I told people, I said, that's got Game of the Year written all over it. People are like, what? What are you talking about? It's just a trailer. And I'm like, yeah, I can tell. You can feel it. You can feel the passion. You can feel the grit and the desire to make something cool and awesome instead of just being like, yeah, we made a live service game in Unreal. Okay. I beat Ball Pit on handheld, amazing game. Never once thought I should be playing this on a 4090. Yeah, look at the popularity of Arc Raiders. Look at the popularity of Arc Raiders. Look at the popularity of Helldivers. These are games that look great, play great, and they deliver on the fundamentals. Helldivers delivers on the fundamentals of fun. Arc Raiders delivers on the fundamentals of a repeatable grind, a loop that's addicting, as well as adding in the tension and the psychological impact of like a social experiment. Like, what a cocktail they came up with. Like, they've made it very hard for other extraction shooters. I'm here to tell you. Arc Raiders is now the Fortnite of extraction shooters. I'll say it. They're the Fortnite of extraction shooters. They just made it really hard on everybody else because that's what everybody's going to compare it to. That's what everybody's going to compare it to. You may not like it. The Marathon Defense Force, they found my video about Marathon. They don't like me. They think I'm some Bungie hater. Listen, I got a list of things the size of a CVS receipt to dislike Bungie. That is not why I'm critical of Marathon. And I'm here to tell you, Arc Raiders is going to make it really, really hard on anybody else to enter the landscape in a meaningful way. Because people are going to say, yeah, no, that one's better. This one's more fun. This is more enjoyable. There's something more intoxicating about this. You also have sunk cost. You have people that have, put a lot of time into the game. That's going to play a huge role too. But that's another example of a game that didn't target high level fidelity, high level rigs, and that's part of why it's so popular is people can play it on mid-level, rigs. Look at the player numbers on Steam. You would never have player numbers like that on Steam if they were like, well, we need to target, 50 series cards only. Huh? It's annoying when they crank their games up to 11 and make them unplayable, says Hidden Seer. Did the Marathon VidDoc change your mind anyway? Not really. Admittedly, looks better. I don't have faith in Bungie at all. I don't. Do you know why? Because of Destiny. They're the experts at being like, oh, thank you for all that feedback. And then they're like, whew, and they put it in the game. Like, yeah, see? We listen. Look how good it is. And everybody buys into the idea of like, oh, they listened. That works in a game like Destiny. It's not going to work in a game like Marathon. I don't think so. I just don't think so. I don't think you can get re-engagement patterns in that game with that kind of development. It worked in Destiny because you had such a long-standing, captive, sunk cost audience that was like, okay, we'll come back, you made it better. You don't have that in Marathon. You don't. I think once you lose people in Marathon, they gone. They're not going to come back because you did an update or patches or fixes. No. You know, the Yapper's back. What's the topic? You're dadgum right, I'm back. Pretty much anything's a topic. We're about an hour into the stream. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button. That does help us out. We appreciate you being here so much. And we're going with a more free-flowing format now. You don't have to stay on topic. We're just bouncing around between all the topics. You can use the question command. To submit questions about anything going on in gaming news. I do need to start pulling up the articles and reacting to them, though. I do. I need to start pulling them up, and we'll use timestamps later. What we're trying to do, so if you're subbed to the channel and you want to kind of understand what's going to be coming your way on the channel, you'll get like an upload like last night. I don't know if you guys saw that upload about Arc Raiders and the PvE lobbies. Buddy, that thing is humming, which thank you for everybody that jumped on that and hit like and left a comment. That helps the video like that, and thank you very, very much. We want to use the live streams as more of a place for you to just come and hang out and talk about gaming news. I don't want you to ever feel like you can't come to the show because we got to be on topic. I want you to feel like, you know what, I can show up and ask him about something, which is what people have been doing today. We've talked about a bunch of different things because people just come in and ask. That's what I want this to be for you guys. I want the Daily Talk Show to be more of a place for you to do that. So that's the goal going into the new year, and I hope you guys like that little bit of a shift. It's kind of the same thing we've always done, but there was a time there where I'd pick like a topic, and I'd be like, we have to stay on topic in the live environment, guys. No, that's a fool's errand, and it doesn't work. And we think a more free flow format is better, and you guys seem to like it more. I can't support Bungie ever. Sorry, too much bad over the years for me to ever give them money for anything, no matter how good it may be. You feel that on such a sorcerer says, I got more faith in a tube of toothpaste. Hellblade 2 was a half-baked turkey with gravy cooked by Chef Boyardee with no stuffing. We're really, really taking the metaphor far here, boys. Listen, if you guys haven't done so yet, take a quick second and hit the like button. A lot of y'all come in and you quickly get to lurking, and I appreciate that. If you enjoy listening and lurking, take a quick second to say good morning, spam an emote, say hello. Throw out a topic that you're interested in. Throw out a topic that you think is more interesting to talk about. That definitely helps as well. We love to see the chat humming, and we love to see the like count going up. And that is something you guys can do every day for free. Destiny 2 is done for me. I'll wait for Destiny 3, says Raven. Show's better when it flows. Yeah, let's do this now. Let's start pulling up some of these stories that I've got for you guys. I'll let you guys kind of decide. I'll throw them out here, and we'll see what do you want to start with. We got people talking about SAROS, Returnal spiritual sequel is not going to be as punishing. We got the Arc Raiders PvE testing of lobbies. We also have the discussion about, is it toxic for streamers to be trolling people? Elder Scrolls 6 new information. Ubisoft was hacked. And then a former PlayStation executive says Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo must learn from VHS's victory over Betamax if they want to expand the console audience. So we got a lot of different things here to talk about. You guys can also, RAM prices could see next generation delayed. Where do you guys want to start? I'm seeing some votes for SAROS in the chat. We can start there. We can. Petrov already submitted a question, so we could jumpstart it. That's a great reason to be here and submit questions. You know what I'm saying? You guys can kind of dictate where we go first. Here's a question from Petrov. Do you think SAROS is going to have difficulty levels? Listen, this is going to sound really strange. I like difficulty levels and I use them, but I don't want them in every game. I think some games aren't made for them. So I think SAROS would be one of those games where it wouldn't fit. I would not want to see, like, let's say they make a Sekiro 2. I would not want Sekiro 2 to have difficulty settings. I wouldn't. I feel that really, really harms the identity of what the game offers. I love that they allowed people to suspend their runs in Returnal. I thought that was good because it made it about, okay, listen, you can come back and pick up where you left off, but we're not going to give you checkpoints. We're not going to give you save points, okay? You can't manipulate it. You can't cheese it. You can't. In Returnal, when you suspend a run, you can come back to that exact point, and then as soon as you come back to that point, it deletes the save. Like, you can't like suspend the run as a checkpoint before a boss or something. So for this kind of game, you simply can't do that. It would eat away at the identity of what the game offers, okay? Now, I ran beginner mode on First Berserker Kazan. I don't necessarily think First Berserker Kazan had its identity rooted in being a punishing, difficult Souls game. It was a blend. It was a bit of a hybrid. It had like action elements, it had Souls elements, it had a lot of elements, right? Dan coming in with 52 months says, I hope everyone had a good Christmas and all the kiddos made some memories. Thank you so much, Dan, for 52 months. I appreciate it. And if you guys want to add to the total over here, make sure you're at Member Plus or VIP. You can absolutely cheese it. No, you can't. It's not possible. If you know how to cheese the suspend run in Returnal, lay it on me. I don't see how you could possibly cheese it. How? You walk through right now for me in chat how to cheese it, because you can't. Let me pull up the article on SAROS. We're on topic for this for just a moment here. Let's see what's being said, and let's put together a bit of a reaction. I'm going to start doing articles in the center of the frame because we are streaming vertical on the platform. All right, so we got an article here from VGC that says Housemarque SAROS looks set to provide a less punishing experience than Returnal. Goodness gracious, the ads. Okay, many PlayStation fans will tell you that Returnal is still the best first-party game PlayStation has released this generation. Yeah, because it's true. It's a hard-as-nails bullet hell roguelite that combines gothic horror with hard sci-fi, and it's absolutely fantastic. The game, developed by Finnish studio Housemarque, was the first big-budget console. It's not big budget, but I don't think the budget was very big for it. Console game from the veteran studio after cutting their teeth on the arcade-style games with well-loved Resogun, which launched alongside the PS4. However, while Returnal is much loved by an incredibly hardcore audience, it's a small audience. While hard games are having a moment in the spotlight, Returnal may have been slightly over the top for some. And Dan upgrades to Member Plus. Thank you so much. That's worth 2. We're now at 484. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate you guys. The game, which in some ways makes Souls-like titles look like Bluey the video game, and that's a bit of an overstatement, has a long list of victims that didn't get beyond the first boss and therefore didn't get to experience the game's excellent story or world design. The next game from Housemarque SAROS looks to show the rest of the world what they missed. Once again, SAROS is a third-person shooter that melds bullet hell games with modern roguelites. However, SAROS doesn't appear to be going for quite as punishing an atmosphere as its older brother. This time, players will be given far more options to upgrade their suit and their weaponry, offering a sense of permanent progression that was missing from Returnal for many. All right, here's the deal. I'm gonna push back a teeny bit here. Hang on a second. We need to update the member display. It's not showing properly. There we go. I'm gonna push back a little bit here. Okay, there was permanent progression in Returnal. They just didn't do the best job of putting it in front of you, okay? There was. I've got a video on the channel right now. If you're interested, it's called Returnal Gameplay in 2025. If you can watch the first 20 minutes of that, There are people that watch that video, they listened to my advice and my insight, and they went back to Returnal and they beat it, okay? Go look at the comments. I'm not making this up. Tons of people went back to Returnal. They returned to Returnal. Anyways, they went back to Returnal and they beat it because it gave them the insight and the sense of progression needed to get into gear. Psychologically, I get it. If you don't feel like you're making any progress, it can be very, very difficult. Like, Risk of Rain 2 doesn't have enough meta progression for me to get into gear. Like, Brotato is fun with my nephews, but like Brotato doesn't have meta progression, so I put it down rather quickly, okay? So I think, yes, there is a meta progression within the game and a sense of getting stronger. It just isn't, they didn't do the best job putting that in front of the player. Now, admittedly, they're going to make this a more clear thing inside of SAROS. The game stars Rahul Kohli as Arjun Devraj. I don't know how to say that name. They've said it a couple times, and I keep forgetting how to say it. It's a lot easier to say Celine. And we'll also see the return of Jane Perry, who played Celine in Returnal. In the game's most recent trailer, we get the best glimpse of the game's story and the planet that Devraj will explore. His team, which appears to be made up of colonists exploring the hostile planet of Carcosia, has no way to get home. His team is turning on each other, and Devraj himself has lost track of how long he's been separated from his team. Now, Returnal's narrative structure was unconventional and obtuse, and I've got a gifted member I need to add. And a 5-bomb comes in from Jack Garland, adding to the total of 489. What a great jump start to the week. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, I don't get why this needs to be refreshed. I tell you what I'm going to do. Let's do this. Refresh browser when scene becomes active. That should fix this for this scene. So much that there are players who finished the game who couldn't quite tell what was going on. Oh no, don't believe me. I've been looking in the Returnal art book my wife got for me. She got me the Returnal art book. There's a complete curveball that the art book has thrown me, and it's I can't get it out of my brain. It's like a splinter in my brain. And essentially, the art book says that when you get to Biome 4, you're not supposed to be able to tell if you are in the future or the past. And I can't stop thinking about that and what that means. I also can't stop thinking about the fact that the second biome is really, really hot, and you go back to it in Biome 5, and it's really, really cold. It tends to go in the opposite direction. So is Biome 5 an older version of Biome 2? Do we have it backwards? Have we had it backwards this entire time? It's a complete mind job, and I still haven't figured out where I land on it. Anyway, while it's very rewarding to pick a narrative threads in Returnal, it felt compulsory to watch the explainer video afterwards to see what you missed. SAROS should look to tell a story that's just as rich, but perhaps less impenetrable, matching the friendlier approach it's seemingly taking with gameplay. There also seems to be a much larger cast. Yeah, there does seem to be a lot more going on with the story in SAROS. That could aid to make the story clear, all right? SAROS' biggest success will be if it offers player an entry point into this type of game and then makes them go back and visit Returnal. Much like Dark Souls 3's relative lack of difficulty brought a wider number of players into the series, which would then all go on to culminate in the massive success of Elden Ring. SAROS could be the game that gives Returnal the chance to re-emerge as an underplayed gem that it is. It really is an underplayed gem. I think it is an absolute masterpiece, and I love it. Okay, let's get into this. We don't want SAROS to make things so easy that players are able to totally overlevel themselves and negate the skill curve that's always been key to the bullet hell genre, but there's a happy medium. As much as we love it, the barrier to entry to Returnal is significant. While there's little information out there, the storytelling from Returnal makes us extremely keen to explore a brand new world and scan everything we can for more context. If Housemarque can pair that with another incredible soundtrack, then Returnal fans will surely be pleased, even if this game isn't going to be better. Batter them over the head with a giant mallet, as much as the first game did. Here's the thing that people don't realize is one of the things they're going to be doing inside of the game, inside of SAROS, is they're going to give you the opportunity to unlock second chance. So right now in Returnal, if you're unaware, you have to buy second chance. You have to buy the astronaut, or you have to find the watch, or you have to find the parasite that gives you a second chance. They're going to allow you to unlock that permanently, so you always get a second chance. Now, there are people that are worried, well, that's going to make it too easy. generally speaking, once you got to a certain place of power in Returnal, you always had second chance. It would be unusual for you to not have a second chance, but it was always a you know, a currency sink to get it. I think having it be a permanent unlock is nice. That could mean that there are no longer items in the game that give you a second chance. There are times where I get all the way to the end of Returnal and I've got 3 comebacks. I can come back with the astronaut, I can come back with the parasite, and there's the device you can go, the reclaimer, and you can spend ether in the reclaimer and you can come back there. So I've got 4 lives, the one I start with and then the 3 comebacks, okay? They might say, listen, we're going to let you unlock second chance permanently. That means we don't want you to be able to find anything in the world that gives you more than that. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. The other thing I will say is if you look at the SAROS gameplay, it's far more intense and fast and speedy compared to Returnal. So conceivably, they could be giving you a little less punishment, because there's a difference between punishment and difficulty. Maybe there's a little less punishment in SAROS than Returnal, but maybe they've ratcheted the difficulty. They've made it more intense because they're giving you a shield as well as the ability to parry with the shield, which is not something you have in Returnal, which could be another element of handing a tool to the player to make the game less punishing and more accessible, but that doesn't automatically make the game easier. I think that distinction's key. I'm anxious to see what they do with SAROS because it's my most anticipated game for 2026. I don't want SAROS to be easier at all. I mean, I don't either. I don't think that's the goal. I think there's a difference between difficulty and punishment. From what the dev said, Returnal's story was never really figured out at the company. They left it open on purpose. I have a personal quibble with storytelling like that. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. I'm not going to use the word lazy, but there's something about it that seems unresolved. And like, what did you guys make? Something that was just too complex to bring to resolution? Like, I can't celebrate that. I don't like that. Personally, I think there should be some clarity given. I like the mystery. Now, somebody might push back and say they want you to experience what Celine experiences. They want you to not really know. They're giving you a level of psychosis that she's experiencing. Like, you aren't really sure, and neither is she. So there's a subversive and creative element there that I do have to give some level of praise. I think that's kind of cool that, like, you don't really know, and neither does she. You're literally experiencing what the protagonist experiences throughout the entire game. Is you're fighting to overcome something that is Sisyphusian, which is why the Tower of Sisyphus was a great addition to the game. It's making it very clear to you that this is a Sisyphusian effort. You will never truly know the answer, which is what makes the game so intriguing. Like the ending of Inception. Yes, the ending of Inception achieves Inception. It plants an idea in your brain that says, was any of this real at all? It literally does to you what the movie is about. It plants an idea in your brain, which is the genius of Nolan. But Returnal similarly does that. I don't like it, but at a creative level, I can appreciate what they're doing because it's like, that's actually kind of cool when you think about it in that perspective. So, literally perfect person to play the main character in Sleeping Dogs movie and look like this guy is going to be the director. I'm excited to be developing Sleeping Dogs with Simu Liu. We're both hungry and passionate about the material. I'm not familiar with any of that. I hope we don't have to wait another 2 years for it to come to PC like Returnal. I love the game and hope to play it the second one sooner. I don't know if the window of PC ports is going to shorten, as has been claimed. I'm not seeing any evidence of that yet. We'll see. We'll see. I don't mind a game going as long as it's quality. That's all that matters to me. When you rush it like they did with Spider-Man 2, it was like 15 months or something. It wasn't ready, and I think that that's a bad decision. I think it's bad for the gamers that buy it. I think it's bad for the property. I think it's bad for the studio. You indirectly harm the studio's reputation, and you give consumers a bad product. Like, yeah. Word of the day, Sisyphusian. Yeah, I mean, the myth of Sisyphus, I love it. I love that they put that into the game. The artwork's there. Like when you go to the hospital, there's a painting of Sisyphus. I think it's fabulous. I think it's so cool. Have you played Madam and together? Yeah, there are streams on this channel of Madam and I playing Arc Raiders together. Yes. Those were like Friday night member streams. I believe those are public right now. I don't think we set those to members. I'm not really sure. Right now, the goal of the week is we get this to 1,000, which you guys are already about halfway there on a Monday because we add Member Plus now on Monday to jumpstart the week. Is a community game night. Not indirectly, you directly harm it. PC players hold grudges like grumpy 8-year-olds. Yeah, I mean, do you really want an entire player base and a user base that size being like, well, I don't want to play those games because the last time I bought a game from them, it was really, really bad. I think that's obviously a dilemma that you have to think about in your porting strategy. You can't treat the PC user base like a dumping ground. I think that that's stupid. It's disrespectful to the PC user base, and it's disrespectful to the property. So, I don't think that they should do it. If it's going to go over quickly, it should be at quality. If you're going to do it 12 months, fine. It needs to be good. You know what I mean? If Spider-Man 2 ran like a dream today, it would still never get rid of the stigma, for sure. Yeah, it happened with The Last of Us, with the one port of The Last of Us to PC as well. They rushed it because of the TV show. I think that was reckless and stupid. Lodo chatting about the tower. I haven't even beaten Returnal. I had to get one more trophy in the tower. It was really easy. I had never done it. You have to use like the really, really strong gorge weapons or whatever they're called, and you have to use them against 100 enemies, and I always only use them on the bosses. So, all right, this has been another hot topic, and we got a video right now that's going a little wild, and it's about the topic of Arc Raiders in PvE. Okay? Let's look at this article here. So this comes out like right before Christmas. And it says, Arc Raiders tester found that PvE players get put into friendlier lobbies while PvP ones are sectioned to aggressive matches by using 2 accounts. Okay? So, in the wake of Embark basically confirming my theory to be correct, okay, that, hey, we do analyze your behavior. And we don't just analyze your behavior, we match you accordingly, okay? Well, they're now having that tested. And this is obviously where it can get a little manipulated, right? This is a worry. You know, you could have people figure out loopholes and things like that. I don't think it's going to be that manipulatable because they can always adjust the parameters that get you put into, you know, PvP-focused lobbies versus PvE-focused lobbies. Okay, so I'm not actually worried about this becoming something that gets manipulated. So, Arc Raiders players are just as capable of being surprisingly kind team players who will help you survive the post-apocalypse as they are to backstab you and steal your chicken feed. But what if you could control who you encounter in the game? One Raider decided to test it out. YouTuber Dami created 2 separate Arc Raiders accounts to find out if the game's matchmaking worked differently depending on your playstyle. One account would primarily be a PvP-heavy aggressive type, a shoot-first, talk-later kind of player. The second account would be a complete opposite, focusing on PvE and avoiding firing at other humans almost completely. What Dami seems to have found is that their aggressive account is usually matched with other similarly aggressive players. At one point, the content creator even asked a foe if they also often attack people first. After confirming his theory, they both fight to the death, of course. So this was the video. This is one of the videos that I checked out before I made mine. And here's the commentary. On the other hand, the friendly Raider had a pretty easygoing time. Everyone's being chill and nice, Dami said. After running into 9 friendlies in a row, no one shot me. No one even tried to shoot me, in fact. Aggression-based matchmaking isn't just the mad ramblings of one mere YouTuber, though. Speaking to PC Gamer, Embark Studios art director Robert Samelin said matchmaking is quite complex, so we do analyze behavior and match accordingly. And they won't go into details. There's a reason they won't go into details. They don't want to give you the ability to manipulate it. Okay? That's kind of the point. They don't want you to be able to, you know, cheese it and, you know, you don't want these tutorials popping up. I talked about this in my upload that's on the channel right now. Like, what's up, guys? Got a little tutorial here on how to get 100% friendly lobbies so you can betray all day. Like, we don't need that. We don't need folks doing that. You know, the streamers are out here farming enough content as it is, you know, messing with people. Other factors like perhaps your loadout might come into play, but at least we know you're at least partly responsible for the energy you attract. That Raider who stopped you from extracting may just be karmic retribution. Now listen, I said this in the video. I said, listen, a lot of you guys are running the comments and you're insisting and you're swearing up one side and down the other that you are never shooting other players. And here's the thing. That animated GIF of Will Ferrell saying, I don't believe you. That's just the energy that I feel every time I see people saying that. They're like, I get killed all the time. Everyone kills on sight. It's toxic. I'm constantly being shot at. And they're like, and I've never shot another player. I'm like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. To be honest, no, I don't see streamers advocating for betraying in friendly lobbies. Oh, no. I have an article that is continuing this discussion. Okay. Now, here's the thing. When you are taking out players that are friendly and you pretend to be friendly, it makes for really great content. Okay, I'll admit it. It makes for great content. I wouldn't do it. I would not like it done to me. But we know that it makes for great content. Okay? If you guys haven't done so already, please do me a quick favor. Hit that like button. Try to get us to 200 likes. Thank you so much for being here today. Hang on. I want to look at the CD Projekt Red tweet. What are you putting here in the Discord for me to look at? What do we have here? Big news. CD Projekt has sold 100% of GOG to Michael Krasinski, one of its original founders. Huh? For CD Projekt, this lets us focus 100% of our energy on what we do best, telling captivating stories through our games and expanding our IPs with new high-quality projects. Rest assured, CD Projekt Red games will continue to be available on the platform, and yes, that includes our upcoming titles. We wish GOG all the best in the next chapter of their journey. Okay. I didn't realize... I don't understand. I didn't realize they own GOG. I'm confused by this announcement. Michael Krasinski, co-founder of CD Projekt and one of its major shareholders, has acquired 100% of the shares in GOG, formerly part of CD Projekt Group. GOG is a leading DRM-free games digital distribution platform that makes games live forever. It's something they need to be a part of. I got double crossed in Arc Raiders. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Sora is king. I appreciate that. Well, let's read this other article about this topic. All right. So IGN reporting here. We just started. I have nothing. Retired pro gamer goes viral for relentlessly killing casual Arc Raiders players. But is it griefing or just fair PvP? So we're gonna go down here to the story. Taylor Humphreys, known as Thump, a retired American professional H1Z1 and Apex Legends player, has taken it upon themselves to hunt down teams of players and kill them for, well, sport. In a clip viewed 4.8 million times so far on Twitter, Thump kills a group of players, one of whom pleads, "We just started, I have nothing." Thump is then called scum, a piece of blank. He responds to say, "Yeah, I killed every single one of you, by the way," and he then laughs. His post reads, "I love killing grown men that have jobs and children as they are trying to get 5 million credits for the expedition. Killing all teamers in solos live now." Now, I think his phrasing here is interesting because there's no such thing as teamers, right? Like, teamers in the Division survival was essentially like against the rules. Like, you weren't supposed to do it. You weren't supposed to go into solos and team. This is literally a part of the game. Like, part of the game is you can work together or work against each other. So his use of the word teamers here seems to be like, it's almost like he's making it seem like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be teaming up. Oh, teaming in solos. No, like, literally the game is designed for you to be able to work together. I mean, you can literally use defibs on people, okay? So here's his tweet. He's not being misquoted, okay? Now, listen. I get it. Okay? I get it. We live in a time of, you go for the high reaction. You go inflammatory. You know, you go kind of negative. You go kind of toxic. And you're going to get clicks and you're going to get views. All right? Get the bag. I understand. I understand the hustle. I understand the vibes. He's not the only one doing this. singling him out, making him seem like he's a problem or he's too toxic. Listen, plenty of creators are doing this. There's guys on TikTok going viral, and they plant explosives on the extract, and they love doing it. They love making it to where people can't extract. They don't even care about the loot. They're literally in it for the love of the game. They want to troll people, okay? But this is certainly something that people do. They go in with the goal of being, quote-unquote toxic, farming for clips. There are plenty of streamers doing this. They go in and they befriend people and they're friendly, and then they kill them anyway, right? There was what's his name? Something Spud. He's really, really funny. His content's excellent. He does the same thing. He'll go in and mess with people, act friendly, and then he shoots them anyway, right? The post sparked a strong reaction from a large group of players. Some of them were hitting out at his actions. Some of them backed it up. I come from a place where PvP is not optional, Thump said. It's a way of life. If you want optional PvP, go play WoW. All right. Again, my problem with this portion is if you want to go in and be toxic, go in and be toxic. The idea of like PvP is not optional. If you want optional PvP, go play WoW. Here's the reality. The very reason he's able to farm these clips and have these moments is because PvP is optional in Arc Raiders. So there's some latent hypocrisy here. Like, you're only able to do this because PvP is optional. If everybody was PvPing, if everybody was running around guns a-blazing, you wouldn't be able to farm these clips because you'd be getting shot at just as much. You'd be getting killed almost at an equal turn. Yeah, you'd get some people and then you would die. And then you'd go back in and you'd get some people and then you would die. The very reason you are able to farm the game for clips is because PvP is optional, okay? So, yeah, you want to be toxic? You go right ahead. You want to farm clips being toxic? Go right ahead. Understand the context within which you're able to do this is because PvP is optional. So if you want to gatekeep and tell people to go play something else, you're literally telling your cannon fodder to leave the game. Like, yeah, PvP being on does not mean it's mandatory. Exactly. Those are not equals. Somebody says, couldn't imagine spending my Friday night getting mad at a random streamer on the internet enough to comment under his tweet because he killed people in a PvP game. I think this is another debate that has really, really gone off the rails. Arc Raiders is not a PvP game. It is a PvPvE game. It has a mountain of PvE grind. It has a ton of things for you to do that have nothing to do with fighting other players. In fact, 90% of the content in Arc Raiders is focused on PvE. The developers themselves have said it's not a PvP game. That's not the goal. The goal is to not just go up and kill people. So what you're saying is completely, inaccurate. It's not what the game is. It's not how the game is categorized. It's an optional thing you can do, which is what makes it so intoxicating, right? The people that are going in and deciding to be friendly are playing the game on the game's terms. They're going in and playing it in a way that the game allows for. If you're just saying, nope, it's a PvP game, I go in and kill everybody, PvP's not optional, I shoot everybody I see, that's fine, but you're whittling the game down to like its most base level parts. So, continuing here, another toxic streamer, somebody said, you should try helping them instead. It might make you feel good about yourself for a change. Another said that Thump was demonstrating psychotic behavior. I don't think this is true. I don't think it's psychotic behavior. I think it's perfectly legitimate to go into a game and as a content creator, if you want to be toxic and farm clips being toxic, that's totally allowed. As long as you're not breaking TOS or community guidelines, as long as he's not going in there and throwing around racial slurs and doing things that are ban-worthy, he's well within his right to do that. That is part of the game. That is literally a part of Arc Raiders' identity, is that somebody can turn on you, surprise you, sabotage you, backstab you, whatever. He's well within his right to do it. We're also well within our right to say it's toxic. You know what I mean? We're also basically able to say, listen, you're gatekeeping the game by acting like PvP is mandatory. You don't get to define what this game is. The game allows people to kill each other. Right, so you can't call him psychotic for doing it. Here's another quote here. I think there's something uniquely antisocial about people who only enjoyment in games is ruining fun for nice and friendly people. I will say that I've always found that to be, at some level, a little troubling. You're not just enjoying PvP. If you enjoyed PvP, you'd be playing a PvP game. This is a game where you are actively celebrating. I mean, his original tweet was, he's enjoying ruining their night. Like, he's not taking joy from killing them, because that's a pretty easy thing to do in this game. It's not that difficult, okay? Let's not act, the guys that always say get good make me laugh. It's like, yeah, it takes a whole lot of skill to hide in a bush and shoot somebody in the back, or, you know, plant an explosive on a door and kill somebody who's, like, you know, trying to extract. Wow, tell me when you qualify for a tournament and win a bunch of money, since you're obviously so skilled and good. If I roll my eyes any harder, they're going to pop out of my skull. Like, that's not a skill expression, right? And that's fine. That's not what this game is designed to be. So stop acting like it is. But I do think it is interesting to go into the game and to not just be toxic, but to celebrate the fact that you're ruining somebody's night. You're like, haha, I ruined your night. You made no progress. I think there's an element of toxicity there that goes beyond, oh, you're being toxic in the game. I think you're being a toxic person. I personally am not okay with that. If that's the way you want to live your life, you go right ahead. But I think literally taking some sense of enjoyment out of ruining a person's evening, like they get home from work, you know, he's like, oh, these working dads. It's like, yeah, they're working really hard, and this is their form of leisure, and you're celebrating taking that from them. I think you're a prick, and I'm allowed to say that. I think you're a toxic person. And if you're okay with that, and you're like, yeah, that's me. I'm an a-hole. That's the kind of person I am. I don't like being in circumference with people like that. I think that's a weird justification of acting, you know, like a degenerate juvenile. But hey, you're allowed to do it. It's within the realm of the game. We're also allowed to call you a prick. There was always a difference between people who trolled guys that were yelling slurs or slamming keyboards and people who only trolled guys that were friendly and seemed to try to keep a happy disposition. So people are drawing a line between, like, trolling trolls and trolling, like, you know, just some friendly Frank on a Friday night, right? In the months since Arc Raiders release, a sort of PvP etiquette has emerged. If you encounter another player and have no intention to PvP, call out that you're friendly. It's considered not cool to say friendly and act friendly and then shoot. But of course, that does happen, and Arc Raiders PvP is always on. Which, again, you're well within your right to be a betrayer, to be a rat. Like, you're allowed to do that, right? That's totally fine. That's within the realm of the game, is to, you know, always have your head on a swivel, and you can double cross, betray, you know, whatever. In truth, this grieving debate has been around as long as competitive multiplayer games have existed, but Arc Raiders has certainly brought back to the forefront. I wouldn't consider this a competitive multiplayer game. I would consider this to be a very, like, casual game. I don't think you're ever going to see a tournament. There's nothing competitive about this game. I don't know if there's ever going to be ladders or ranking or anything like that. I don't think that's a thing. So this is not a competitive multiplayer game. Who cares if you pretend to be friendly, then shoot to kill? It's a video game, right? Your fellow human who trusted you cares, suggested one Redditor. It's a video game. You don't die in real life when your character dies, somebody countered. There's a real person on the other end spending real time and effort playing the game, and they trust you not to steal that from them after you say you're friendly, responded one user. They let their guard down, and then you take advantage of that like a coward. Be a man and shoot on sight if you want the loot. Here's something I will say to the people who are doing that. Like, if you're being friendly and then you're shooting, you know, once they turn their back on you or what have you. The funny thing is that's the person that's clearly demonstrating a lack of skill. You don't have confidence in your own skill to win the gunfight. You need to get the upper hand by tricking them, which is fine. Like, if you know that you're not very good and you have to rely on that as a tactic, know thyself, right? You're well aware that you're not a very good player. You know, just don't be the first person to run to Twitter and YouTube comments to spam get good if that's the kind of player that you are, because you're clearly admitting you're not very good. Then this person says, it's a competitive PvP video game. No, it's not. Where you roleplay as a ruthless post-apocalyptic raider. How is being honorable good roleplaying? Yeah, it's not a competitive PvP game. It's a PvPvE game, and it's not a competitive game. There's no ladders. There's no rankings. There will be no tournaments. There's nothing competitive about it. And so on and so forth. But this isn't exactly what Embark Studios has hoped would emerge from Arc Raiders. Their official blurb. In the end, only you decide what kind of raider you are and how far you will go to prevail. That's from their official blurb. The developer is essentially handing over Arc Raiders to its community. Do what you feel is right, basically. The game is designed for tension, but is it designed for relentless PvP? And here's somebody speaking to this. The game is designed for you to work together, as there's typically enough loot in the environments to go around so that everyone can rise up and you can have a good time together with the occasional PvP, this person suggested. Now, the video that I watched on this subject, let me tell you the guy's name. This guy was blown away by how lucrative being friendly was. He couldn't believe it. He could not believe how lucrative it was. He was being friendly, and he got more loot because of it. All right? So, wait, hang on. That's a 7-hour stream. That's not the right one. I need to go to the right video. Let me find it. Here it is. Let me see if I can find his montage of him looting. Is this it? Hang on. Oh, I want to find the montage. Is this it? I can't tell which is the end game screen and when he's like actively... Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is eroctic, all right? And watch what happens, all right? I believe this is the section where he starts showing like how much he gets out with. Like he starts to show he's leaving with so much loot. I'm in front of his safe pocket, by the way. He's got a pink item in his safe pocket as well. I don't know. He ran a montage at some point in the video. I think he's reading chat. He's got a great cat. He runs a montage showing he just keeps extracting. And it's like, ding, ding, ding. And he's like got such good loot every time he extracts. Let me see if I can find it. Did he put it at the end? Is it here? No. I don't know when he did it. This video is kind of all over the place. Anyways, I'm not going to be able to find it. Anyways, he was pissed because of how easy the non-aggressive player lobbies were, but that's what happens when you play like a douchebag. You get less loot and less friendly players that PvP kill you on sight. Right, he was kind of blown away. Let me see if AI can find it. Where is the extraction loot montage? Let me see if AI can find it in the video for me. Wait, I clicked on the wrong video again. Hang on. I clicked on the wrong video again. He has two, I swear he had two videos that I watched. One was him live streaming for like 7 hours. Here it is. It's a 21-minute video. Hang on. Leaving friendly servers. There's 3 different lobbies. My concerns. Progression. Loot from friendly lobbies. Here we go. Watch this montage. Boom. Tons of loot. Like he's got blueprints. He's got all kind of stuff he's getting out with. He's not just leaving with like, crummy stuff. So here he is, he's looting again. He's got pinks, right? Boom. Returning to Speranza. All that stuff. Boom. Returning to Speranza. All that stuff. He's doing this while being totally friendly. Not having to fight people. Not having to PvP. Look at the look on his face. He's like, oh my gosh. You see what I'm saying? It's like, oh wow. I'm getting tons of loot. And I'm not having to fight. I'm not having to get into shootouts. I'm not having to get into skirmishes. Right? Back to the IGN article. All right. So this guy's saying you could work together. The game's literally designed for you to work together. This guy's proving you can get very, very wealthy in the game. So he was pissed. I wouldn't say he was pissed. I think he was like, oh my gosh, there's actually a pretty heavy incentive to play friendly, which think about it. There's probably a bit of a conundrum for a content creator, okay? Because to him, it's more exciting. It's better for clips. It's better for streams to be PvPing, right? Eugene's saying, well, that doesn't feel rewarding to me, right? Like the subjectivity is that internally, he might get a lot more excitement and fun out of PvPing. It might be better for the stream, might be better for clips, might be better for content. But when you play friendly, you progress so fast. He was just leveling everything up, leveling his chicken up. He was doing all those things super, super fast, and he wasn't getting in PvP fights. So for him, it's like, well, that's kind of boring. That's kind of subdued. That's not really exciting, but you can't argue with the results. The dude's coming back to the lobby super wealthy every single time, right? So there's probably a bit of a tension internally that he feels, that it's like, well, yeah, I guess I could play like this, but the problem is I kind of don't want to. It's kind of boring. Like, to their credit, Embark literally said that before they added PvP, the game got boring. Not in the first couple of hours or the first couple of days, but week on week, month on month, they were like, yeah, this is going to get boring. And I think that's what he's dealing with. Like, internally, he knows, I could do this Monday through Friday and get so much loot and so much progression, but it's boring. Because of his personality, because of the content type. Maybe his audience is like, come on, man, shoot him. Like, you know how the audience gets. The audience gets toxic. They want to see the fireworks. They want to see the kills. They want to see the PvP. He was getting a large quantity of loot, but was he getting the quality of loot that you get from PvP? Yeah, he was getting pinks and blueprints. What do you mean? He was getting great stuff. He was acting as if he was getting great stuff. He wasn't acting as if he was getting like low-level stuff. He was blown away by the progression with which he was leveling and getting gear. The IGN article continues, the second lobbies only become about PvP. You lose most of your player base who want to enjoy the other aspects of the game, not just PvP. Going with the mindset that it's only about PvP takes the charm and the fun out of the game, and it completely ruins the experience. You lose any sort of potential magic that could have happened because, see a person, must rat, and gun them down without an interaction. There's some things about this that are right, but there's some things about this that I don't agree with. Number one, yes, if it just turns into strictly PvP, the developers have said they don't want that. They don't want this to be basically deathmatch with loot, and it does take some of the charm away. If there's no mystery, if there's no mystique, part of the excitement of PvP is you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if someone's going to shoot you or be aggressive or want to work with you or extract or what have you. Share loot, work together, whatever. That adds to the tension. That adds to the social experiment. If you're just going in, if you're just going in to fight and you're just going in to kill, yes, I think that flattens the game out in a big, big way. And it makes it seem like, kind of boring or kind of rehearsed or kind of like, yeah, I've played this game before. Does that make sense? So, yes, I agree with what they're saying. The other problem with what they're saying, though, is they're saying, well, you're going to lose most of your player base. Do you want to know why they're not losing most of their player base? The reason you're not losing most of their player base is because the matchmaking's working. The matchmaking's working. This guy Thump, he's going to have to smurf it up off stream if he wants to keep having lobbies where he has like free and easy kills, which is obviously what these guys are going to do. If they want to farm clips and they want to have a good Friday night, Saturday night stream where for 3 or 4 hours or whatever, they can just go, they can go and kill friendly players and they can get into easy lobbies. I tell you what, they're going to have to smurf in the off hours. And even then, I would hope that internally, Embark flags an account like that. If you're going super friendly and clearly smurfing, you're just going in with free kits and you're letting people kill you, and you do that for 4 hours, and then for 4 hours you go heavy on PvP, I would hope they start flagging accounts that are obviously smurfing. If they're obviously smurfing their matchmaking so that they can have a really, really great montage stream, I 100% think an account like that should be flagged. Like, no, you're a PvP player. You belong in PvP lobbies. You belong in lobbies with players that play like you. You say the game's PvP, here you go. Here's your wish. Here's your wish. Here are lobbies that emulate a PvP game. You want to sit here and pound your chest on Twitter and say it's a PvP game, don't get mad that people are killing other players, well then you shouldn't be mad if you get put into PvP lobbies, should you? You seem to be getting what you want. You seem to be getting what you ask for. You seem to be getting the energy that you're putting out there. The matchmaking should 100% be rectifying this. If you're intentionally smurfing so that you can farm new players or friendly players on a Friday night because you want clips, 100% I think you should get whiplashed right back into PvP lobbies because it's clear what you're doing. It's clear what you're doing. That's why I don't think Embark's going to go into detail about how the matchmaking works, because they don't want guys to be able to do that. That's what they will do. Drop them into super sweats every game. That's what I'm saying. If you're putting out that kind of energy and you're saying, hey man, it's a PvP game, PvP's not optional, I'm going to kill people every time. Okay, fine. We know the kind of lobby that you want then. Here's a lobby where everybody's PvPing. And if they start to complain, then the hypocrisy is seen. It's like you don't want PvP. You don't view this as a PvP game because the minute you get that, you complain. So, dollars to donuts, they would complain when that starts happening to them. If they're getting put in sweaty PvP lobbies where everybody's shooting on sight and you can't have your little gags and your little betrayals, I bet you $10 you start pissing and moaning about it because you can't do the thing you want to do. Which, ironically, is exactly why the PvE guys are complaining. They can't do the thing that they want to do because they have guys like you coming in pretending to be friendly and shooting them anyway. So, I think the matchmaking should rectify all of this if it works properly. And here's why I know it's working. I'm going to show you guys something. I know that this is working because take a look at this. In the last 24 hours, the game was within 20,000 of its all-time player peak. Just in the last 24 hours, it hit 438,000. All right? Let's go to all-time on the chart. You see this chart? Look at how healthy this is. Look at this. Look at this. In the 400,000 player peaks, 300,000, 400. 400,000 player peaks. Little under 400. Little in the 300s. Little in the 300s. That's fine. Back up. 385. Back up. 438. You got events, you got wipes, you got cyclical things, and people are coming back. The player base is healthy. The player base is healthy. One of the reasons the player base is healthy is because the matchmaking is working. The matchmaking is working because the PvE guys that keep claiming that they're leaving and quitting, not enough of you are quitting. If you think you're the majority and you think that you guys are quitting in droves and that the game's going to be dead soon, I got bad news for you. That ain't the case. Something's working. Those dips on the graph were server outages too, worth mentioning. Yeah, a lot of those dips are server outages, maintenance, and things like that. I'm here to tell you, I think the matchmaking is working, which is exactly why you don't got to worry about guys like this. Listen. No hate, no shade. Let Thump do it. Let him do it. You know? He logged in with the full inventory of trigger nades, and he killed everyone trying to get relooted after the expedition is a joy. Trigger nades do not need a nerf, right? You're gonna get a nerf. You're gonna get a nerf. You watch this clip. My man, he has trigger nades in his safe pocket. And he's just gonna blow everybody up. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, he is just decimating this group. You're going to get him nerfed just with this clip alone. It's also on sale right now. It's Christmas weekend. Yeah, but even before that, it was still in the high 300,000s. That's a healthy player base. That's not a drop-off. That's not a mass exodus. That's not people quitting. It's none of that. I don't think PvE guys are quitting, and I think the ones that are not in large enough quantities to affect the player numbers. And I think fundamentally, the game is doing a good job of keeping people, and I think the matchmaking is part of that. I think the matchmaking is a huge part of that. So, yeah, the Christmas noobs and the Christmas sale is playing a role, but so is the reset. Butter says, I didn't see you mention anything about PvP being separated based on mode. I.e., your playstyle plays a role in your solo, duo, and trio lobbies separate from each other. In my experience, my solos are far different than my trio. My playstyle is aggro in trios and passive in solos. I can go from trios to solos and not get PvP lobbies after having hours of PvP. I don't think it's a hard line. I don't think it's a hard line, Butters. I'm not sure if it's possible they separate based on modes, but what do you think? I had too many people commenting that said when they played with their buddies and their buddies were heavy PvP, they had to kind of like shake it off. They had to run solos for a while and deal with PvP. It was like it kind of got stuck to them. And then there were others who were reporting what you're reporting, Butters. They're like, I play with my boys. We go heavy PvP in trios. When I play solo, I don't. And I have a very different experience in both. I'm hearing too many mixed results. The general consensus is if you commit to not shooting back, using proximity chat, extract with other raiders, you will get put into lobbies with people who play like that. It's not just not shooting back. I think it's the use of emotes. It's the use of prox chat. It's the extracting with other players. It knows, it's like, okay, you're not just going in and extracting quietly and not shooting anybody. You're going in and you're actively in proximity with other people and you're extracting with them safely, right? So I think that's the biggest consensus, is that if you do that, you can influence your matchmaking. If you start shooting back, if you start defending yourself, if you go heavy PvP with your buddies in trios or duos, I can't speak with any confidence to what you're going to experience because I'm getting very, very mixed response. I had only a couple of people last night leave comments that were like, nope, it doesn't work. I'm constantly getting killed and I never shoot back. They're either really unlucky or they're lying. I think they're lying. I'll be honest. I think a lot of these people are shooting back and then they lose the fight and they're salty. And then they get stuck in a rhythm of they can't get out of PvP because they're always shooting back and they're losing fights. It's not about whether or not you win or lose the fight. It's like, no, you're willing to shoot other players. I had countless, an ocean of comments of people saying, I've played 50 hours, I've played 100 hours, and I rarely have to PvP, I rarely deal with PvP, and it's because I don't shoot back, and I extract with other players, I talk to other players, I work with other players. That is the consensus, is that if you play that way, you will very, very much get a matchmaking algo that is catered for your play style. That doesn't mean you're never going to get killed. It doesn't mean you're never going to run into PvP. Okay? It's still going to happen. But you can very much have a very solo, peaceful, friendly environment. The minute you go into duos and trios, it's a lot harder to predict. So, I don't know if they can or if they do that, Butters, because I had people reporting very differently about that particular topic. Whether or not they could play PvP with their buds and be affected or not. Toe-to-toe with Counter-Strike on Steam. Let's see what we got here. Where are we? Yeah, right here. This is bonkers. US, Canada, Mexico. You got Arc Raiders in the second, and first spot. It's hanging out up there with Marvel Rivals, Battlefield 6, and Counter-Strike. Like, Arc Raiders is really holding its own. And I think part of it's because of the matchmaking. What's interesting is I've had some people come to my comments and they're like, doesn't Arc Raiders prove you wrong about extraction shooters? And I'm like, no. It literally proves me right. They are keenly aware. Because I got news for you. If the matchmaking didn't work the way that it did, would I have gotten to 30 plus hours? No. How many of you wouldn't have made it past 5 hours if it wasn't like the way that it is? If every time you went in, you were constantly having to fight for your life and you were constantly getting killed and you were constantly getting murdered, oh man, no, you wouldn't have made it to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 hours, 60 hours. Listen, the people leaving comments on my video that are saying they've played 100 hours and have largely had a peaceful existence literally proves the point. They removed the specific pain point you referenced and they're being successful, which is exactly what I always said. I was like, listen, that disruption point is the main reason games like this are going to struggle. They have set up the matchmaking in this game. People are reporting hitting 50 to 100 hours and almost never dealing with PvP. They are seemingly very keenly aware of everything I always said about extraction shooters. I was like, if you want to be mainstream, you got to figure out how to solve that. which is what I said. I was like, a PvE mode before the game came out. I was like, I don't know, man. They put an awful lot of work into the AI. They put an awful lot of work into the PvE elements. It looked like such a cool game and such a cool vibe when they first announced it. I think they're very keenly aware of those things, and they know if we can harness matchmaking and data to put people where they want to be, they'll keep coming back. How many people have said, yeah, I don't really get down with extraction shooters. I don't really like extraction shooters, but Arc Raiders is so fun. Matchmaking. Angry Pete sets it up for a 10-bomb dunker to 500. We'll see if anybody takes the bait. Thank you, Angry Pete. They need to remove the pain point, but not completely, or the game loses its edge. Right. It's like taking a very, very pointy sword and blunting the edge of it. It's still sharp. It can still cut you, but it ain't nearly as pointy as an edge. Message from the Spine team. Great. This year, we're not ready to announce a release date. Man, they just can't give a release date. That's that Gun Fu game. Broken Earth comes in with the 10 bomb and lands the plane on 500. And I owe you guys a member. Thank you so much, Broken Earth. It's spicy food. It's spicy food where, like, it's like when you go to a Thai restaurant and you're like me, you know, I'm an American. I grew up on American spicy food. So I'm like, yeah, give me a 1 or a 2. And then the guys that love Thai food or love spicy food are going in and asking for the 9 or the 10, which comes with a disclaimer. They're like, now hang on a minute. Do you know what you're asking for? Right? It's the same idea. They're catering the matchmaking to my spicy level. And that is why I got to the level of playtime that I did. I would have never gotten to that level of playtime. Now, am I still playing? Am I clocking tons of hours a week in Arc Raiders? No. I got my fill. I got 80 hours of Helldivers. Felt the same way. I got 30-something hours in Arc Raiders. I'm like, yeah, that was fun. I had a good time. Could I still play it with you guys or Madam on a Friday night? Sure. And that would be fun for a particular stream. Frick! And Zinthos comes in with the Agents of Chaos and adds 1 to the total. 501. I'm a solid 6 for Thai food. Grew up on black pepper. Now, come on now. You know what I'm saying? Come on now. We ain't got to make it about that. We ain't got to make it about that. You know what I'm saying, dude? Like, that's me with Indian food. Yeah, Indian food and Thai food. Boy, oh boy, it can get spicy. I can't hang. Lona would make the Chipotle mayo sandwiches to be spicy. Shut the frick up. Shut up. All right, here. We got more stories, though. We got more stories. More is going on in gaming news. More is going on here. And here, we got this. Let's go on our side-by-side here. And let me just make sure that this is, yeah, okay, it's refreshing every time. Okay. So the Elder Scrolls 6 dev says we're going to take our time as long as it needs to be great, and points to GTA 6 delay as the smartest thing they could do. Okay, so we're talking about the 2 big 6s coming, the Elder Scrolls 6, GTA 6, and saying, listen, delays are fine. It's a smart play. We're gonna do what we need to do, and that was a smart thing for them to do what they did. Now, Bethesda developers, including Chief Todd Howard, have issued an update on the Elder Scrolls 6, but they stopped short at confirming a release date. I mean, we're really, really far out for a release date, okay? When the 6-year anniversary of the Elder Scrolls 6 announcement arrived in June last year, even Howard himself paused to say, oh, wow, that has been a while. I want you to think about what the heck just happened? Stinking ads? Okay, I want you to think about this right here. The 6-year anniversary of the announcement. Now listen. I have historically defended them in announcing that game so early. And the reason that I've defended them is because they were basically browbeat into making the announcement. You might not remember this, okay? You might not remember this. But it was pretty clear that every time they sat down to do an interview about anything, Doom, a new game they were working on, a new trailer that they just put out there, all they ever dealt with was people saying, yeah, but are you going to make it? Are you going to make Elder Scrolls? Are you going to make Elder Scrolls 6? And I think eventually they were just like, listen, put the stupid trailer out there so we can stop getting asked about this, okay? And I think that's a reasonable thing to sort of give them a bit of a pass on, okay? Like, I'm not going to like rake them over the coals for this one, okay? I'm not going to. I get why they did it. It was kind of annoying. I was even at the time annoyed. I remember watching an interview, I believe it was about the latest Doom, and they literally couldn't get anything out about the game before they were basically being asked about Elder Scrolls 6. So I laugh. It's humorous that this is even a thing, but yeah, it's the 6-year anniversary of the trailer. The Elder Scrolls 6 is at least in production, with Bethesda confirming it had entered early development in August of 2023, and early builds were available in March 2024. Last month, amid increasing pressure from fans for some information on the game, Howard said that the Elder Scrolls 6 wouldn't be out for some time. In an interview with GQ to celebrate the release of Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition, I think this was pretty bad. I feel like people were pretty upset by it. I mean, I don't know. I thought I saw some videos. Howard said that Elder Scrolls 6 is, quote, still a long way off, adding, I'm preaching patience. I don't want fans to feel anxious. Speaking with Game Informer, he said Elder Scrolls 6 and other Bethesda developers issued a more detailed update. Let's start with Howard, okay? He says, it's progressing really well. The majority of the studios on 6, but I'll say this, we always overlap. So we're very used to overlapping development. And we have long pre-productions on things so that we feel good about them. And it's a process. We all wish it went a little bit faster or a lot faster, but it's a process that we want to get right. Taking the time to get the Elder Scrolls 6 right is a sentiment shared by studio design director Emil Pagliarulo, we'll just go with Emil, who pointed to GTA 6's high-profile delays as the smartest thing they can do. What do fans want, he asked. Do they want a game that comes out before it should and doesn't meet their expectations? Or do they want the turkey that is in the oven for long enough to be delicious when it finally comes out of the oven? That's what I think people are going to want, so we're going to take our time as long as it needs to be great. And finally, studio director Angela Browder hyped up the technological advances to make Elder Scrolls 6 this endless set of possibilities that is really, really exciting as a developer, but really, really exciting as someone who really likes to think about how far everything has come in the industry. It's going to be dope. It's dope. She really likes the word really. Really. Anyway, okay, I mean, I hope that this speaks to things they're doing with the game. I hope it speaks to that. The idea that they're, endless possibilities and perpetual items and open world and everything else. I hope they're able to deliver. It's a tall order, especially if it's a long ways out. Expectations tend to go up as games get delayed, or this is not being delayed, it's just taking a long time. GTA 6 is a good example of expectations tend to go up, the longer you wait. Alas, there remains no release window, which is what fans are waiting to hear right now. Oh, sorry, I thought they were saying which is not what fans, but no, yeah, they want to hear the release window. Fans are getting increasingly desperate for news. Earlier this month, some thought Bethesda teased the Elder Scrolls 6's release year in the live-action Skyrim trailer because one of Santa's elves raised their speech level to 27. You can understand why patience might be difficult for some. In January this year, the Elder Scrolls 6 announcement became as old as predecessor Skyrim was when the Elder Scrolls 6 was announced. Skyrim was released in 2011. The Elder Scrolls 6 was revealed in 2018. 2,403 days afterwards. It's now 7.5 years since the announcement, and we're no closer, it seems, to the release of the game. Yeah, and again, sadly, I don't think that is necessarily their fault. I don't think that they had much of a choice. They couldn't do interviews. They couldn't announce anything. They couldn't talk about anything without basically being, badgered about Elder Scrolls 6. It's like they couldn't talk about anything. They couldn't do an interview. They couldn't talk about Doom without people being like, yeah, but are you going to do the Elder Scrolls 6? You know, I get why they did what they did. It's unfortunate, but here we are. It's the reality. They announced it probably well before they should have, but it was because they quite literally didn't really seem to have a choice. Newbie, it's been 10 year plus. You newbies keep feeding them with online purchase and spoiled GTA. Now GTA will be a subscription to play. TY newbies. I don't really understand why you're saying what you're saying. No one has indicated that GTA 6 will cost a subscription fee. I also don't know who you're talking to. I don't think anybody here has indicated that they've continued to give money to GTA. I don't really understand what you're saying. It's not even really a subject here. Nobody's talking about the price of or what GTA is going to require when it comes out. So I bet they also thought their development cycle was a lot further along than it actually was. I don't think they thought that. I think they knew they knew for a fact that they hadn't touched Elder Scrolls 6 when they put that trailer together. They weren't in the dark, oh, I thought we were further along. No, I think they knew that they were literally, I think they were literally saying, yeah, we just want to stop answering this freaking question. It was literally, I'm not kidding you. I remember the year. I remember the year, and they couldn't talk about anything. They were trying to talk about Doom, and the interview kicked off with asking about Elder Scrolls. I remember being frustrated. I was streaming, and I said to the chat, I was like, why can't they just sit down and talk about another game that they're developing? Why do they have to keep being asked about Elder Scrolls? So the trailer for Elder Scrolls 6 was quite literally, can you stop asking us about this? So now they could sit down and do an interview about a new IP or a new game and be like, no, you don't need to ask us about Elder Scrolls 6, right? We've confirmed we're making it. There's a trailer. We'd like to move on now and talk about this new game or this new thing that we're working on. As opposed to, being like, yeah, every time we sit down to talk about a game, we got to deal with this. You know what I mean? What is this? Oh, that clip this morning of that kid opening up that PlayStation. I love it. I love it. That kid's going to remember that for the rest of his life, dude. We all have those memories. I'll never forget opening up the Nintendo, the NES. You know what I mean? It's good feels. Good feels. Okay, I've not looked at this yet, so I have no idea what it's going to say. This is about the Ubisoft hack, reportedly blown out of proportion, says sources. So a recent slew of claims about a series of hacks and breaches at Ubisoft has been blown way out of proportion, according to people familiar with the events that have unfolded over the past couple of days. Various rumors and claims of a Ubisoft breach began after the company shut down Rainbow Six Siege servers following a hacker who gifted players a combined, I don't even know how much currency that is. Is that million, billion, trillion? What, 339 trillion? Is that how much that is? In-game currency, according to sources familiar with the breach. Ubisoft intends to perform a rollback to undo this change. Yeah, I would imagine that you'd want to roll that back. That's quite a lot of dollary dues there. Rainbow Six Siege breach wasn't the only hack that Ubisoft suffered. According to other groups, Ubisoft suffered a massive breach with 900 gig of data compromised. Allegedly, the data included source code, internal tools, development materials of upcoming previous games. It now seems these claims were in fact untrue. The group with such claims have not been able to provide any evidence of the alleged breach. Sources within Ubisoft have told Insider Gaming that the company's security team were made aware of some of the breaches earlier in the year following leaks surrounding projects such as Scout, and then since the canceled Far Cry game called Talisker. Another group that claimed to have breached user information has since backtracked, saying it was false. According to sources familiar with some of the groups who alleged such breaches, they say that the hacks were blown out of proportion and some individuals just wanted clout from the hack that made the headlines. Insider Gaming has reached out to Ubisoft for comment, but has not received a response due to the holidays. Should we receive one, we will update this report. So, yeah, somebody went in and went crazy with Rainbow Six Siege, but it doesn't seem to have been the one that everybody said it was. Like, oh yeah, they got 900 gig, they got current and past and future source code of games. It doesn't seem to be the case. So, yeah, I didn't even get a chance to look into it. So that's the most recent update about that particular topic. Now, let's see. Yeah, Shawn Layden's making some waves out here. Does an interview and stoking a restoked fire, if as it were, of, you know, people are for some reason once again debating exclusives. I don't really have an interest in retreading my thoughts on exclusives and why I think a timed exclusive is such a good setup, because you focus development on one platform, you get the best out of it, and then you have a really good porting team, bring it to like PC, and then the people on PC get a great piece of property and everybody's happy. I'm kind of done beating that dead horse. So people can restoke those fires all they want, but this is a very different piece of information here. So we've got Shawn Layden now saying that the Nintendo and Microsoft and Sony, they need to learn from VHS's victory over Betamax if they want to truly expand the console audience. So if you missed it, he sits down, he does this interview, he does this podcast, and he's basically talking about, you know, the industry and the exclusive debate's been resurfaced, but this is a very, very different topic. So pulling from IGN here, video game console sales cap out each generation at around 250 million. So how will the console manufacturers break through that barrier? By learning a crucial lesson from the videotape format war, one former PlayStation executive has suggested. So if you missed this, he spoke on Pause for Thought, Naomi Kyle's YouTube channel, if you guys want to check out the full interview. And so this is what he had to say. We talk about gaming as being this $250 billion industry, which it is, and have hundreds of millions of users, which it does. But of course, that includes if you're playing Wordle, you're a gamer. If you're playing Candy Crush, you're a gamer in that number. But the number of discrete consoles sold over any particular generation caps out at about 250 million. Now, this was also echoed by Phil Spencer, saying like that you're not really growing the industry and it's stagnating. And this is why I think we've seen PlayStation attempt to move into China with the China Hero project, because they know this reality. They need new user acquisition. They're well aware of this, and they're making inroads to do that. We'll see if Nintendo comes up with their own strategy of growing beyond what the Switch 1 did, but let's continue reading. If you line up all the PS1, Sega Saturns, and Nintendo 64s, and you go by generations, it's all about 250. The one time it popped to almost 300 was the generation that had the Wii, and people thought that you could buy Wii Fit and lose weight. So we got some non-traditional gaming audience to buy into the gaming industry at that time, but that was an anomaly, and we're still kind of flattened out. So we need to crack that cap, that barrier. Now, this is something I've spoken to, okay? It's interesting that he says the reason it got high this one time was because you got non-traditional gamers to buy in to the ecosystem. And I have always said that Xbox's attempt to get people to get into gaming by playing like cloud through their television or cloud through their tablet or their phone, I have consistently said I don't think that's going to yield a bunch of results. If you're not currently gaming, I don't think you're going to be won over by cloud gaming. I don't think so. Going and buying a controller and Bluetoothing it to your television and signing up for some subscription service. There are so many subscription services already for Netflix, Disney Plus, and the like. A non-gamer isn't going to be won over by that. I don't think so. Winning over roughly 50 million people that were non-traditional gaming, thinking like, oh, a Wii Fit could be cool. You know, there was a gimmick there. There was something new. There was something fresh about that. Gaming largely hasn't changed in the minds of non-gamers. You're still sitting down in front of a television with a controller and jumping over things or shooting things. And I think largely you're not going to get those people to switch. So let's see what he has to say. Layden said the video game industry should study the past as it looks to the future. In particular, Betamax's loss to VHS in the videotape format war. The videotape format war was a late 70s, 80s battle between Sony Betamax and JVC's VHS for dominance in home video recording, with VHS ultimately winning due to longer recording times, broader licensing, and key partnerships with movie studios, making movies available for rental or purchase on VHS more readily, despite Betamax often having slightly better initial quality. And here's what he says. Betamax lost to VHS for one reason only. VHS licensed its format across many different manufacturers. Sony held the unique Betamax patent trademark and everything. There was a license we did with Toshiba towards the end of the life cycle, but it never went wide like VHS. People did not understand that need of having the same machine as your neighbor. You can have an RCA TV and you can have a Sony TV, but you know that's all fine. But once your neighbor has picked VHS and you want to watch the tape of that movie, you have Betamax, all of a sudden the industry coalesced around VHS. So later on, Sony and Philips created the Compact Disc Consortium. They created the patent and then they licensed it out to all the other manufacturers. The same thing happened with DVD. The same thing happened with Blu-ray. They said that we'll compete on the device. So if you get a gang of, if you get a Bang & Olufsen Blu-ray player, it's going to cost more than a Sanyo version. Even though they both support the platform, they'll have different bells and whistles. Layden said exactly what the video game industry should do: create a gaming format consortium of sorts. Okay, I'm very interested in what he sees being possible here. I think we need to get in a world where we have a gaming format. Maybe it just comes from PC. Maybe we find a way to do it all in Linux kernel or something, and then we have a consortium around that. We have licensing programs which allow other manufacturers to build into that space, and then you can talk about real numbers moving. You know, that's how you get to the ubiquity of the toaster. But right now, I think we're tapped in this containment field. I think the problem with this analogy, and I really like Shawn Layden and a lot of his commentary, but I don't think this analogy holds, because with VHS and Betamax and then Blu-ray and DVDs, those were like the way to watch movies, and you had like broad market appeal. Everybody wanted to do that. Right now, what you're trying to do is get people who don't game to get into gaming. Having a format consortium isn't going to solve that problem. Let's say you could wave a magic wand and a developer could make a game in a format so it's easily agile and it can land on PlayStation and the Switch and PC, and you keep development costs low, and then the game can be in tons more places. That does not suddenly make that appealing to a non-gamer. Just because you solve a format problem to give agility to development, you know, so you can have a, you know, maybe a multi-plat developer who typically has to spend a lot more time getting the games ready or what have you, that does not suddenly make gaming more appealing to non-gamers. I think that is the fundamental problem with this situation, is you have people that have just decided gaming is not for them. So you got to attack this in two ways. You either go for the people who are not presently gaming and they're young. So that's a generational shift, right? You're going for that generation. As they come up, you want them to get into the console. You want them to buy your hardware. So there's a generational approach. And then I think there's a geographic approach. There are regions of the world that have low adoption rates into consoles. One of those is China. There's also efforts in India as well with PlayStation to say, hey, we're not really popular in that region. I even think PlayStation is trying to become more popular in Japan, as they've typically done better in, you know, America and Europe versus their saturation in Japan. Nintendo's hold in Japan is very strong. So I don't necessarily think this is an answer. Like, if you could wave that magic wand and create this format consortium, you're actually making it easier for developers to bring games to market. You're not making the market more approachable to non-gamers by doing that. Like, oh, well, yeah, now we can make games for the Switch 2. Well, let's say Switch 3. Let's say this is in the distant future. We can now make games for the Switch 3, the PlayStation 6, you know, the Xbox Magnus and the PC, and it's a lot easier for us to make games. That doesn't bring non-gamers into gaming. It doesn't. That you're not removing a barrier or making gaming more appealing to them. Now, maybe what he's thinking is that, like, oh, well, then you could put it into places like cloud TVs and the like. And I'm like, maybe. Again, you can do that right now. You can game on your television through the cloud, a tablet, an iPhone. Like, you can game right now through the cloud. Accessibility to gaming has never been easier, and you're not seeing people who don't traditionally game jumping in. You're just not. Now, let's see if he expands a little bit here. Let's continue reading to see if he. I don't see this solving any problems other than keeping development costs down. Corey says he's wrong. You cannot get people who feel like games are a waste of time to play games. Gamers are a fixed audience. The goal should be to appeal to the gamers you have and attract people who will get into gaming in the future. That's why I said you either go for a generational approach or a geographic approach. Go where they're not gaming yet because they're young, or go where they're not on your console yet because the region maybe was locked previously or something. Following Layden's thoughts here, though, it would require Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo to come together and agree upon a singular gaming format that means all video games play on all consoles. Yeah, and I don't think you're going to get Nintendo and Sony to play ball here because that would work against their aims. Making it easy to play a Nintendo game elsewhere or a PlayStation game elsewhere grates against their aims. Like Nintendo sees themselves as a toy company, PlayStation sees themselves as an extension of a technology company, a hardware company, I should say. They want you on their hardware. It's why PlayStation and Sony are investing in this relationship with AMD. You wouldn't invest in that relationship with AMD and then agree to some format consortium that makes it easier for games to be played not on your platform. That would completely go against the aims of Nintendo and PlayStation. Also, it doesn't seem to solve the problem of trying to get more consumers. You're making it easy for consumers to go elsewhere, which doesn't really solve the problem of getting more people on your console. Not only that, but any company would then be able to try its hand at making a PlayStation or an Xbox and compete with the first-party console manufacturers in the market. How likely is that to happen, though? Maybe there's a world in which Microsoft does something like this with the Xbox, given its current multi-platform policy for its video games. Sony releases some of its games on PC, and with Helldivers finally on Xbox, but it seems a long way from a blanket multi-platform policy. I think this is well stated. A lot of people act like Sony has completely shifted into multi-platform. I believe that's so exaggerated when people say that. Nintendo is perhaps the least likely of the three to join forces. I agree with this. I don't see them coming to the table anytime soon with the other players. You've always needed a Nintendo console to play The Legend of Zelda, and I can't see the next mainline Zelda coming out on anything other than a Switch 2. Yeah, and you got to consider just how many copies of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and Breath of the Wild sold. You're not going to get them to walk away from that. There's so much money. This is another thing you have to consider. Nintendo may be perfectly happy with a cap on the number of consumers who potentially buy a Switch 2. If they're making more money, that's all that matters, right? If they're selling more copies of Zelda or Metroid or Donkey Kong or whatever than they have in years past, and now the price of games, is 60, 70, and in the case of Mario Kart, it was 80. If they're making more money, they don't care that the same number of people bought a Switch 2 this year as last year, or maybe just a fraction more. I don't think they care. That's probably perfectly good to them. Now, obviously, you always want to have, perpetual growth in a larger user base, but I don't know. Now, he's going to touch on exclusives here because this does touch on the subject. It would mean a true death for the console exclusive. For now, though, console exclusives remain a thing. Layden insisted. I don't think every game has to be a console exclusive. I don't think every game should be a console exclusive, but I do accept the fact that if you're going to have a platform company like Sony or like Nintendo, Microsoft is more of Xbox everywhere, anywhere, there is a huge value to the brand having strong exclusives. If Mario starts showing up on PlayStation, that's the apocalypse, right? Cats and dogs living together, and the same goes for Nathan Drake and Uncharted. They make the platform sing, right? Until you decouple like PlayStation's philosophy of exclusives showing off the hardware, as Herman Holst has said. Mark Cerny's even spoken to this recently when he sat down with AMD. They want their hardware to be showcased. They want their hardware to be on the forefront of neural processing and machine learning and creating worlds and image quality that exceeds where we currently are. Well, a great way to do that is to have an exclusive. Somebody whose sole focus is your hardware and your tech and your new stuff, whether it's updated versions of PSSR or new ray tracing suites or the neural processing that they've talked about. A great way to get that showcase and to make you look like you're on the forefront of the technology and the hardware is to have exclusives. That doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And the same with Nintendo. I don't think you can decouple those things. It's part of their business philosophy. It's part of their approach to the market. And you can point to PlayStation games going to PC later. That doesn't take away from anything I just said. Those are still priorities. Until those priorities are disrupted, until you see PlayStation decoupling the hardware with the exclusives and that relationship, until you see that decoupling, I don't think this goes away. A game coming to PC later honestly proves the point. They're not doing it day and date. They're doing it later. Why? Because you haven't decoupled exclusives from showing off the hardware. And Nintendo, I just think that seems like a pipe dream to get Nintendo to come to the table and start putting Mario on other platforms and changing their entire philosophy that's worked for them for 20 plus years, 30 something years. I just don't think so. So for now, I think that console growth, I don't agree with Layden. I don't think it's going to come from a consortium of format, because I think what you're doing is you're solving for X when really that's a solution for Y. Like, that doesn't solve for getting more people to buy consoles. What that would do is make it easier for multi-plat developers to make multi-plat games. PlayStation and Nintendo have no incentive to do that because they are already baked in with their own profit setup. Like, Nintendo makes a ton on their first party, PlayStation makes a ton on their third party relationships. The only way that would work is if PlayStation felt like, oh, we're starting to lose our third party foothold, because they make most of their money from third party. We know this. Third party makes the entire industry move. You'd have to basically compel them to say, we're not going to bring our games to your platform any longer until you agree to this, because it's getting too expensive to develop. And if we can't get a format consortium agreed upon, then we're not going to make games for your platform. That would disrupt the entire hardware relationship they have with AMD right now. Everything they're working on right now would have to be halted, stopped, and adjusted to this format consortium, which would set its sights on helping third-party developers more than it would help PlayStation or Nintendo. So I don't see that happening, and I also don't see it really helping consoles grow. You want consoles to grow? You want more people to buy consoles? You got to appeal to a generation that isn't buying them yet, or hasn't really picked one that they're loyal to yet, or get into a market, get into a geographic location where you presently don't have a foothold, like China or India or any other untapped markets where consoles currently might not have a strong foothold. I think that's how you grow consoles. I don't think you grow it with this format consortium thing. I think it's better to focus on making the hardware excellent and the games excellent and make that the selling point, and then go to a market maybe that's untapped, or maybe a group of people that haven't really traditionally purchased your console. Like, they've been getting new user acquisition on PlayStation seemingly from somewhere. Maybe people leaving Xbox, maybe people on PC that decide they want to play a sequel. We know people here that did that for God of War Ragnarok and Spider-Man 2. They didn't want to wait, so they thought, hey, I'll buy a PlayStation. $400 or $500 isn't that expensive in the scheme of, like, if you're on a mid to low level PC, upgrading that PC or buying a new PC and then having to wait for the games anyway. The console's not a terrible like adjacent purchase to add to your gaming experience. So that's kind of my thoughts on the matter. I think that consoles are certainly at their cap, it seems, but we gotta wait and see what happens in China to really see if there can be significant growth for PlayStation, especially if that's possible. And if it happens, I think you could see that number go up, as we saw it go up with the Wii, even though if it was temporary. People feel entitled to those? People feel entitled to what? Like games? We got one more. We need to react to. Let's see here. Yeah, Ecstasis is chiming in on this one, so let's get this one pulled up too and talk about it. Well, no, there's also a huge cultural divide on video gaming as a hobby on the whole. As much as gaming is widely accepted out there, it's also just as much looked down upon. I think the number of people that look down on gaming has probably shrunk over the years. I think it's shrunk over the years. I don't think that there are the same number of people that are like, oh, gaming? Blah. Like, if you think about it, like, I'm in my 40s. My wife will be, shoot, hate me saying this. She'll be 40 next year, okay? So we're 40-something parents, and we don't think that. So people our age bracket that have kids, we all think very differently about gaming. The previous generation was a lot more hesitant. Like, my parents were a lot more hesitant. People like my parents and their peers were a lot more hesitant to like do the gaming thing in the home. I don't think that's not a thing now. Most of the parents I know my age, they don't have a problem with their kids playing video games. I think this is why Shawn, Layden, and Sony split. Sony thinks like we do. The goal is to try to grow the regions where the console has not been historically, but Shawn Layden thinks people don't game because they can't get access to it on their preferred device, which is the Microsoft strategy. Microsoft's failure is proof that Layden is wrong. Well, Microsoft hasn't really been able to put their strategy in play for very long, so I don't know if we could say they failed. They have pivoted to this strategy. Now we have to wait and see what it does for them, right? I have predicted they won't get high conversion. Like, you're not going to get a bunch of people who don't traditionally game to suddenly start gaming through their television, through cloud, or through their phone or tablet. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm open to being proven wrong. I don't think they're going to see big gains on that. I think Xbox, as an extension of Microsoft's going to really start to see that most of the money comes from publishing and microtransactions and mobile. And that's what they're going to invest in. You know, you'll probably see a lot of AI games hit mobile. You'll see a lot of AI, research done into microtransactions and how to maximize microtransactions. I don't think they're going to see the arm of gaming as like this, we need to make sure and, get people, playing on their phone and their TV, and they got to buy the Magnus and this, that, and the third, and we need a handheld. I think a lot of that stuff is going to get deprioritized because Microsoft's going to say, we make way more money on publishing and microtransactions in mobile. And I think their push into AI is largely going to get married with those things. So I don't think they've really had a chance to try out the strategy. I don't think the strategy is going to yield the results that people and gamers want to see. I think gamers are going to be largely frustrated by what happens in the coming years, because I think you're going to see studios close down, you're going to see projects canceled, and you're going to see Microsoft lean more heavily into microtransactions and mobile. That seems to be what they're signaling. Look at what all these companies are doing right now. As soon as they smell better profit in another place, they're going to go there. And as soon as Microsoft gets a whiff of like, oh, we can make a ton more money and a lot more profit by doing this and cutting that and gutting that and canceling that. For Pete's sakes, they reallocated budgets and they didn't do an Xbox Wrapped. Like, that couldn't have cost that much money. Come on. For a company Microsoft size, do you really think running the Xbox Wrapped program at the end of the year cost that much? But it got cut. It doesn't even have to have large savings and gains for them to get cut. That's the concern, is that Microsoft is so squarely in the driver's seat. That's bad for gaming and bad for the studios that they own. And I tried to warn about that for years and was called every name in the book because people can only think in console tribalism. They can't see, as I always said, Microsoft's the devil in the room, and nobody paid attention to them because they wanted their team to win. And now we sit here in a very, very different situation. And I think people are going to really start to see that Microsoft owning studios is bad. You don't want them owning gaming studios. They're bad for gaming. They've been bad for gaming for a long time. But it's looking like RAM price increases are going to touch next-gen console timing. Now, I have said for a very long time, I thought the PS6 coming late 2027 was unlikely. It just doesn't seem to line up. That's a very, very short generation. This generation feels like it's going to last longer. They seem to signal it was going to last longer. There's been phrases used in earnings calls and things that Mark Cerny has said that made 2027 feel unlikely. I know there are reports that production will start in 2027. I know there are internal documents that say they want to ship the PlayStation 6 like holiday 2027. I feel like dates on these types of things are very, very flexible. We saw it happen with the Switch 2. It got delayed into the next year, and then they had an absolute record-breaking initial first year of sales, and I think something very similar could happen with the PlayStation 6, but now RAM prices could potentially play a role. Insider Gaming has learned that the ongoing prices to RAM due to the increase of rise in AI could delay the next generation of console releases. We first mentioned the rumor during our Insider Gaming Weekly episode on December the 19th, where we mentioned that we heard that there are already ongoing talks at the high levels on what the RAM availability could mean for the next generation. So the long and short of it is there's been a bit of a bum rush in big orders, and we're trying to get RAM because shortages are worried. There's all this people wanted for AI and the like, and there's not going to be enough for consoles now, or that's the concern, right? From what we've heard, the industry as a whole is concerned about RAM availability, as they should be, and what that is going to mean for mass producing consoles at a competitive price point, not only for the next generation, but it could also mean that yet for price increases for current generation consoles will hit us in 2026. So there's two aspects here, right? Is that they're not going to be enough to make the consoles, or they're going to have to pay more than they wanted to for the RAM because they get into a bidding war, which then means the price per console goes up, which means the consumer then has to share the brunt of that. We could also see that happen in this generation, and we could see a price jump again next year. RAM modules have increased in price by several 100% in the past few months due to the demand for AI, and with the pursuit of AI seemingly not going away anytime soon. RAM availability could continue to be a bottleneck, or at the very least, the RAM shortage will mean that prices will continue to hike. It leaves console producers in a very tricky spot moving forward, and while consoles have traditionally been subsidized to a certain extent in the past, it seems like RAM availability and price increases will mean that the next generation of consoles, which were already believed to be much higher in price than previous generations, could be extortionate. I don't agree with this. Prior to now, it was not believed that the next gen would be higher in price. Quite the opposite was reported by Moore's Law is Dead, and I believe even Insider Gaming reported on this, that the PlayStation 6 was targeting keeping prices down. They weren't going to be targeting some massive big hardware leap, and that they were doing that in order to keep prices down. Now, we heard the Magnus might be more expensive, and that was based off of like Sarah Bond's remarks about it being a premium device, a very premium or whatever she said. But I don't think there was any indication that like, oh yeah, the PlayStation's going to be much more expensive. There wasn't even speculation about the next Nintendo being more expensive. So I don't necessarily agree that like, oh, we already believed it would be higher in price. I think naturally maybe inflation made people think this, that like, yeah, the PlayStation 6 might be more expensive, but the internal documentation seemed to indicate they were actively wanting to keep prices down. From what we understand, the situation has led console manufacturers to debate whether the next generation of consoles should be delayed from their intended 2027 to 2028 release window. Now, the interesting thing here is I always said it made sense to me that the PlayStation 5 gen would live a little bit longer, and that late 2028 is when PS6 would show up, right? That's what I had believed for a while. I was just basing this off of commentary they had made in earnings calls and interviews and the like. So it sounds like they were already thinking, oh yeah, we're going to have some flexibility here. Now, the hope is that RAM manufacturers will be able to build out the infrastructure to produce more RAM, thereby allowing prices to drop. Regardless of what happens, though, it seems that the next couple of years could see the current generation consoles increase in price further. I mean, yeah, there's two concerns, right? They could increase in price, or they could take a whole lot longer to come out. Both of those are not great. The hope would be that the situation could calm down, but I have always said, if you look at the PS5 and the Pro, and they haven't even gotten to really leverage GTA 6 yet to grow the number of people that have not made the jump from PS4, if you finally get people to do that in 2026 with GTA 6, it would be really weird to like 6 months later start marketing a PlayStation 6. I want you to really think about that timeline. Like GTA 6 finally drops. You finally start getting people to switch over from their PS4 to their PS5. And then like half a year later, you're marketing the next PlayStation. I continue to think you would want to ride the GTA 6 wave all of 2027. Because as it stands right now, GTA 6 is not coming out until late 2026. Which means you'd be able to go into 2027 very strong to say, hey, buy the PS5. It's the best place to play. You finally get the 40 or 50 million people to get off of the PS4 and jump over to PS5. In the year that that's happening, GTA 6 comes out late 2026. So all 2027, in the year that that happens, we're supposed to believe that PlayStation's going to walk out, market a new console, and try to get people to buy the new console. Now, you could compel me to think they would do that if there was some kind of an incentive tied to GTA 6. So you get people to completely leapfrog a gen. They go from PS4 to PS6 because they're like, oh my gosh, PS6 is going to do XYZ in GTA 6. I want that. It's going to be, even better than the Pro or the standard PS5. I still think you're going to want to move those PS5 units all of 2027 from GTA 6. They're not getting a sales bump from a cheap PS5. What's the point of staying on 5 if nobody is buying them anymore? Go to 6 and get the sales again. That you could also compel me that like, yeah, let's just get people to move. But again, yes, they're not getting a sales bump from being able to drop the price, but getting a sales bump from a game that you didn't even make, that's like a dream. You're gonna, if you get an increase in sales on the PS5 from a game that you didn't even make, a game you don't have to market, you don't have to shoulder the production costs, the marketing costs, none of that. You could do combo units, strike a deal and do combo units. That whole year, you could have people buying your PS5. And then they could pull the same strategy that Nintendo pulled. So what Nintendo did was, Nintendo delays the Switch 2, so they're able to meet demand and sell way more units in a single year, giving them better velocity and momentum for the new generation of the Switch. The PlayStation 6 could do the same thing. You shore up stock, you make sure you have plenty, you're undercutting the scalpers that everybody hates, and you have plenty, so that when you finally launch the PS6, you're able to have that launch momentum and inertia. So say, oh yeah, we have them. You can buy them right now. I don't know. To me, that's how I've always viewed it. I could be wrong. I could be looking at this completely backwards. But the fact that GTA 6 is coming so late this gen, that getting that boost and that bump and that momentum this late in the gen of PS5, I don't know why you would disrupt that. I'd leave that alone. But they could know things I don't know. Market research could point to, hey, if you're selling a PlayStation 6 in 2027 and you're motivating people to do it with something with GTA 6, maybe they make more money. Maybe the margins are better. Maybe they're already at a place where they want to downscale production of the PS5. I don't know. As it stands right now, I still don't think we see a PS6 until late 2028. That's how I land on it. The console sales are to drive software sales. Dropping an $800 PS6 in 2027 isn't helping any of that. Yeah, I agree. I thought the software was to sell the hardware. They're a hardware company. Yeah, I mean, the hardware is just... Oh, wait, so yeah, Eugene said the console sales are to drive software sales. Yeah, it's interrelated. That's why I don't know. I really don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't. To me, it makes way more sense to just let GTA 6 put jet fuel in the tank and they just get to sit back and reap the benefits. You already have the production lines. You already have the PS5s being made. Hopefully by then, some of the costs for PS5 peripherals would go down or production costs would go down. They've had a really hard time with that. This is one of the reasons that, it doesn't seem like the Steam machine is going to be making enough to compete against an actual console, because even PlayStation's struggling in that regard to get, cost per unit down. It'll be using exclusive software to sell hardware to sell more software. I bought GTA 5 on the 360. I bought the remaster on the X1 and the PS4. I know, right? I went through turbulent year in console gaming. I did the same with Skyrim. I think GTA 6 could pull the same. Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that that's just such an easy, it's just such a layup. They can just sit back and reap the benefits of a game that they didn't make. A game they didn't make. That's how I've always kind of viewed it. So that's kind of the long and short of all the news stories, and we're at about 3 hours. Generally, I don't like to go beyond 3 hours. There are people that come back and listen to this and watch this later. It makes it a little bit easier for them to consume it. So it is around this time of day that we head to the green room. Going into the new year, you're going to need to be a member plus or a VIP to consume this content. Right now, it does take place in the Discord. That's a great reason to be in the Discord. As you can see, we've already got a huge jump start on the goal this week. We're basically halfway there already, and that is because we add member plus on a Monday. So every Monday, the goal is higher, but it's basically the exact same goal. We're trying to get about 500 a week, and that's a lot easier. That goal is a lot closer when you're at Member Plus. If I start a week with 600 people at Member Plus and above, we only need 400 for Friday. We're trying to make that visual for you. So like, oh, I upgrade to Member Plus for $6. I'm actively helping us hit the goal every week, every month. You get to count yours multiple times in a month. Every Monday, it gets added to the total as a baseline, and then anytime you celebrate, I add it as well. So it's a great reason to upgrade to Member Plus. It's $6 a month, and it helps us do this full time. So appreciate you guys so much. Stone Spire's here on his lunch break. Don't do any setup, Stone Spire. We're getting out of here. We're going to the green room. We're just a few minutes shy of 3 hours, so I'm calling it. We do about a 3-hour stream every day, Monday through Friday. It's actually a 4-hour stream if you're a member because you get to come to morning coffee. So Stone Spire didn't listen. He's going to do a setup anyway. He's going to do a single gifted, and he bumps the line to 502. This man is just completely. He's just so faithful with that. Save it for tomorrow. Save it for tomorrow. We're a little behind because we want to end a Monday at 600, but that's fine. We're coming into the new year and we're coming off the holiday, so we'll need to catch some momentum and some wind in the coming days. So, yeah, make sure and get into the Discord. It's a part of your membership, and it's where we do the green room now. And I appreciate y'all's support. And yeah, all right. If I don't see you in the green room, you can check out the latest video on the channel about the PvE lobbies in Arc Raiders. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for more gaming news discussions. All right. Thanks.